Chapter 202. The others were dumbfounded. Who was this buyer number 1? He actually said that he had punished supporting Xian Island, and Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Wuyuan seemed to be afraid of this person. Oh my god! There was actually someone in this world that could make supporting Xian Island and 10,000 demons afraid of him. Everyone also felt apprehensive. Thinking of the demon domain that buyer number 1 had mentioned, everyone remembered another thing. There was a legend in the cultivation world that the top 3 sects of the righteous path and the devil path would send a group of people to the demon domain to fight every 5 years to see whether the righteous path or the devil path was stronger. Did they meet him at that time? Was that the time when supporting Xian Island was taught a lesson? Otherwise, who would go to the demon domain for no reason? The demon ghost domain trial that happened once every 5 years could not be hidden from others. Therefore, the top 3 sects of the righteous and demonic Tao had spread the news that they would compete in the demon ghost domain. This was reasonable in the eyes of the other sections. Wu Sihai by Zizong, and the others were shocked. Could it be that the power behind Yu Qianqiu was so powerful that they had already taught supporting Xian Island a lesson? At this time, in the secret room behind everyone, a man in a black suit was murmuring, "Demon domain, supporting Xian Island, 10,000 demons, righteous Tao and devil Tao." Could it be that something happened during the demon domain trial? Who is this buyer number 1? He can actually make the top 2 sects of the righteous Tao and devil Tao so afraid. It seems that we shouldn't stay here for long. Qiu Wuyuan's face twitched uncontrollably when he heard buyer number 1 say that he wanted to take a stroll around the myriad demons' palace. He thought to himself, judging from your tone, I'm afraid you're not going to my myriad demons' palace just to take a stroll. He immediately smiled apologetically and said, Senior, you must be joking. My 10,000 demons is very simple, and there is really nothing to look at. If you don't want to show your face in public, naturally, no one will force you. Senior, please go ahead. Everyone was stunned again. They had never seen Qiu Wuyuan of the 10,000 demons speak in such a tone. Wu Sihai and Bai Zizong were puzzled. Qiu Wuyuan called Yu Qianqiu Senior? Especially the way Wu Lixua looked at him. It was as if she was looking at a monster. Yes, I like hearing that. I don't like it when people force me. As long as no one provokes me, you guys can do whatever you want. After saying that, Yu Qianqiu leaned back in his chair. Yes. Qiu Wuyuan smiled apologetically and almost broke out in cold sweat. After what happened today, he had lost a lot of face. However, there was nothing he could do about it. Challenging a soul formation stage expert was not enough. The scene quieted down again. Even the arrogant Fuxian Island and the 10,000 demons sat down quietly. Wu Sihai looked down and frowned. Was the auction going to continue? Or was it going to be like what Qiu Wuyuan said, where all 4 pieces of the set were auctioned together? After thinking for a while, he cupped his hands and said to everyone, Since everyone wants to auction all 4 treasures together, the Wu clan can't make the decision. I have to discuss with the seller and see if the seller is willing. Please wait a moment. In fact, he had no choice. Selling them separately was definitely not as profitable as selling them together. However, both the top sects of the righteous and demon sects had expressed their intentions. Even if Yu Qianqiu was there to control the situation, it was still not good to offend them. However, if the seller didn't agree, then it was none of his business. After saying that, he went back to the backstage. Many people's minds started to spin. 5 ancient treasures had appeared in today's auction, and they were all the works of a divine smith. This was a little strange. They didn't know who the seller was. After a while, Wu Sihai came back. He cupped his hands and said to everyone, The seller has agreed to auction all 4 treasures together. After saying that, he waved his hand to the backstage. 3 Wu clan's disciples each carried an item out. There were no trays or red silk decorations. They were all directly carried out by hand. Wu Sihai couldn't do anything about this. The seller said he had something important to do and wanted the auction house to hurry up. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't agree to such a request because it involved the auction house's profits. However, this time, they had to make an exception. After all, the seller had provided 5 items. He was really a big customer. He alone had made a lot of money for the Wu clan. The first Wu clan's disciple held up a black hairpin to show everyone. The second opened a white brocade handkerchief, and the third opened a long white silk. Wu Sihai introduced the items to everyone. This black hairpin is the cloud-chasing hairpin. This white handkerchief is the even cloud handkerchief. This long silk is the snow silk. As for the snow luo gown on the clothes rack, everyone already knows it. After a casual introduction, Wu Sihai said to everyone in a clear voice, "I'm the one who said it first. The starting price of these 4 items is 46 million high-grade spirit stones. The highest bidder wins. The minimum increment must be no less than 1 million high-grade spirit stones. Everyone, please state your price." Everyone was startled. What was wrong with Wu Sihai? Why didn't he introduce the items? He was clearly just going through the motions. It wasn't even as detailed as Wu Tai's introduction. While everyone was still in a daze, Yu Qianqiu shouted, 46 million. Wu Lixue, who was standing at the side, raised the sign above his head with both hands. His heart was thumping nonstop as he silently counted how many 500 high-grade spirit stones he had to pay to relieve the pressure on himself. The crowd was very quiet. After waiting for a long time, no one made a bid. Everyone couldn't help but turn their attention to Dongfang Chang, Ao and Qiu Wuyuan, who had revealed their true colors. But the two of them were submissive, as if they didn't know what was on their minds. In fact, if it was someone else who made a bid first, the two of them would definitely compete with each other. However, it was the first buyer who made a bid first. Needless to say, Dongfang Chang Ao had experienced it in the Demon Ghost region, so he didn't dare to compete with him. Qiu Wuyuan was even more afraid. If he really offended a guy in the soul-forming stage, he might really go to the 10,000 demons for a stroll. By then, who knows where the 10,000 demons would be? This kind of person was almost like a god. They really couldn't afford to offend him. If they couldn't offend him, they could at least hide from him, right? So the two of them didn't say a word. In addition to the two of them, there were naturally representatives from the other 4 sections. They also knew in their hearts that they didn't get involved in the matter just now. Now they even jumped out to compete with him. Wasn't that just looking for trouble? Even if he didn't do anything, what if? The consequences of this what if was very serious. Such a strange scene immediately attracted the attention of the other sections. Although they didn't know what was going on, even Fuxian Island and the 10,000 demons had obediently stepped aside. Was there any need to reason? Therefore, the scene was abnormally quiet. No one even shouted loudly. The situation of no one bidding appeared again. The person in the secret room was so angry that he clenched his fists tightly. After being messed with by the first buyer, he suffered a great loss. Wu Sihai, who was on the stage, waited for a long time, but didn't announce the result. His eyes swept back and forth a few times, and finally landed on Yu Qianqiu, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. His Wu family also suffered a great loss this time. Chapter 203. When it was confirmed that the auction item belonged to buyer number 1, Yu Qianqiu was stunned. Why didn't anyone bid for it? He thought for a while and understood that the soul formation stage experts were really awesome. They shocked the entire cultivation world without showing up. I have to work hard. After paying 4,600 peak-grade spirit stones, Yu Qianqiu returned to his seat and waited for the Wu clan to remove the auction hall's defenses. Afterward, everyone left and went to the backstage to retrieve their items. The items that they were retrieving were naturally the treasures that they had spent money to bid for. Backstage, Wu Sihai stared at the pile of top-grade spirit stones on the table and said helplessly, "Keep the top-grade spirit stones. Prepare the rest of the spirit stones for the seller." Clan head Marshall Thunder walked over and smiled bitterly. "I'm afraid we can't keep them all. There are more than 10 million top-grade spirit stones in the warehouse. I'm afraid we have to take out some top-grade spirit stones to settle the seller's account." So much difference. Wu Sihai was shocked and frowned. "Can you transfer some spirit stones from other free auction houses immediately?" Marshall Thunder shook his head and said, "I'm afraid not. The turnover of spirit stones in the free auction house is quite fast. It is very difficult to transfer so much money at once. Even if we can transfer more than 10 million top-grade spirit stones at once, I'm afraid they will stop first. Those sellers who are preparing to auction the goods will not agree to us not taking out spirit stones as collateral. I see. Wu Sihai paced around and pondered. He stopped in front of the pile of top-grade spirit stones and nodded. Take out 2,000 top-grade spirit stones, and follow me to the front desk for the auction. Ah. Marshal Thunder was shocked and quickly dissuaded. Clan head, this is not good. Buyer number 1 just paid us the top-grade spirit stones. Isn't it a bit too? Besides, if these top-grade spirit stones are circulated, it will definitely shock the entire cultivation world. It's fine. If buyer number 1 has any objections, ask him to look for me. I will handle it. As for whether the cultivation world is shocked or not, what does it have to do with our Wu clan? Our 4 great clans don't want to fight for the world's number 1. Wu Sihai laughed. He knew the details of the first buyer. Naturally, he was well aware of this. Seeing that the patriarch was so determined, Wu Lei had nothing to say. He said yes, and ordered people to distribute the 2,000 top-grade spirit stones on 4 trays, and cover them with red cloth. Then, 4 disciples carried the trays and followed Wu Sihai out. Wu Sihai came to the front of the stage, and cupped his hands to everyone. Everyone, in view of the last 4 items being auctioned as a set, according to the usual practice of 10 grand auctions in previous years, only 7 have been completed this year. In order not to make an exception, my Wu family has specially taken out some of the rare items that we have recently obtained and divided them into 4 parts to be auctioned. We will use them to make up for the missing 3. I hope everyone can understand. Everyone looked curiously at the 4 trays covered with red cloth. Many people used their divine sense to scan them. Although they didn't find what was inside, they were shocked by the rich spiritual energy under the red cloth. What rare things were they? Everyone looked at the first buyer in the front row and sighed in their hearts. If it was really a good item, they were afraid that no one would dare to bid for it if he opened his mouth. Yu Qianqiu was also very baffled. What kind of item could actually have such rich spiritual energy? Wu Sihai sized up the audience and saw some clues from everyone's expression. He smiled slightly and thought, everyone don't worry. This time, the first buyer will definitely not intervene. I don't believe that he will use the top-grade spirit stones to buy the top-grade spirit stones. Then he waved his hand at the 4 disciples at the side and said, open it. The 4 disciples respectfully accepted the order and removed the red cloth on the 4 trays on the table. A shiny purple appeared in front of everyone, and it was very eye-catching. Everyone below the stage was very puzzled. What is this thing? From the shape, why does it look a bit like a spirit stone? Yu Qianqiu, who was leaning on the chair, sat up straight. Others might not recognize it, but how could he not recognize it? This is obviously the top-grade spirit stone that I took out. The Wu family actually took out the top-grade spirit stone that I paid for to auction? Damn! Yu Qianqiu's mouth was so wide open that an egg could be stuffed in. Could this be the legendary top-grade spirit stone? Someone below the stage suddenly exclaimed. As soon as this statement was made, everyone suddenly came to a realization, and it instantly caused a huge reaction. They started to discuss and were all doubtful. Is it really the top-grade spirit stone? It can't be. So the top-grade spirit stone really exists. That's right. Wu Sihai glanced at Yu Qianqiu and said with a smile. Everyone didn't see it wrong. It is the legendary top-grade spirit stone, and it is definitely not fake. There are a total of 2,000 top-grade spirit stones here. Everyone, this is considered a rare item, right? The audience instantly went silent again. So what if the item is good? Once the first buyer spoke, it has nothing to do with us. Can't you see that everyone is sitting up straight and waiting for nothing? Wu Sihai faintly smiled. He then cupped his hands towards Yu Qianqiu and said, buyer no. 1. Do you think it's better to sell these 4 trays of 2,000 top-quality spirit stones all at once or in 4 batches? Yu Qianqiu's face kept twitching under the black cloth. Motherf ***, you took advantage of me and still want me to express my opinion. Recalling that he had disrupted the auction, he paused and replied, the top-grade spirit stone is also a spirit stone. I am not interested in spirit stones. You can auction however you like. Anyway, I will not buy it. Don't drag me into this. Hearing this, everyone shook their heads and sighed. Not interested in spirit stones? What a rich man. But they were relieved. If he didn't intervene, everyone would have hope. Oh, Wu Sihai nodded and asked the crowd happily. What do you think? My Wu family has no opinion on auctioning them separately or together. They are all spirit stones. What's the point of dividing them? Let's just auction them together. Dongfang Chang'eo, what do you think? Xiao Wuyuan stood up and shouted. Since the first buyer did not intervene, he had nothing to worry about. Dongfang Chang'eo said expressionlessly. As long as everyone has no opinion, I have no opinion too. Who has any opinion? Speak up. Xiao Wuyuan looked around and shouted. Everyone was speechless. If Fuxian Island did not object, how could they have any opinion? Seeing that everyone was silent, Xiao Wuyuan nodded and shouted. Brother Wu, since everyone has no opinion, let's auction them together. All right. Then I won't say anything. Wu Sihai pointed at the items on the table and said loudly. Everyone knows that one top-grade spirit stone is equivalent to 10,000 top-grade spirit stones. There are a total of 2,000 top-grade spirit stones here. If we auction them together, the base price will be 20 million top-grade spirit stones. The highest bidder will get it. As for the minimum increment, it must be no less than 1 million top-grade spirit stones. Everyone, please state your price. Buzz. The crowd suddenly became lively. Since the first buyer had said that he would not intervene, what else did they have to worry about? 21 million. 22 million. The price continued to rise. Damn it. Damn it. You old fox. Yu Qianqiu gritted his teeth and cursed Wu Sihai's ancestors in his heart. Suddenly, Xiao Wuyuan's voice sounded in Dongfang Chang'eo's ears. Dongfang, this top-grade spirit stone is indeed a good thing. But just like what the first buyer said, a top-grade spirit stone is still a spirit stone. If the price is too high, it will not benefit us. Our two families are the wealthiest here. I believe it will eventually fall into our hands. In my opinion, there is no need for us to fight to the death and let that old fox Wu Sihai take advantage of it. When the price reaches a certain level and no one else is bidding, why don't we let one of us get it, and we will split the price equally. 1,000 top-grade spirit stones each. What do you think? Dongfang Chang'eo also replied. That's a good idea. But what if you don't want to admit it after you get it? That's easy. As long as you agree, I will swear an oath. Xiao Wuyuan said. Dongfang Chang'eo only replied with one word. Okay. After the former made the oath, the righteous and the devil quickly came to an agreement. Chapter 204. There wasn't much suspense. In the end, the 2,000 best-grade spirit stones were bought by Xiao Wuyuan at a price of 40 million top-grade spirit stones. No one was surprised. After all, Xiao Wuyuan was the one who shouted the loudest when they were going to auction it together. Obviously, he had long wanted to buy it. However, the reaction of Fuxian Island surprised everyone. They were quite negative when they shouted the price. Normally, the amount of spiritual energy in a piece of supreme-grade spirit stone should be about the same as that of 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. Doubling the price was indeed a bit too much, but this thing was very rare. It was unknown how many years it had been since it appeared in the cultivation world. This kind of thing was definitely not available to ordinary disciples. Only those elders with high prestige in the sect were qualified to enjoy it. Ordinary magic treasures couldn't be shared with everyone. On the contrary, this thing was the most popular among the elders. After all, no matter which sect the elders were from, the supply of spirit stones was limited. No matter how much they had, they couldn't go too far. If they gave tens of thousands of top-grade spirit stones to each elder, even if they didn't say it, they would definitely have a lot of complaints in their hearts. But this thing was different. It couldn't be given to all disciples, could it? Big sects had a lot of disciples. Even if you split each top-grade spirit stone into several pieces, it still wouldn't be enough. Those who were qualified to enjoy it were naturally those with high prestige and high positions. Therefore, this thing was really the best item for bribery. Whoever brought it back would be guaranteed to gain both fame and fortune, and everyone would praise them. Yu Qianqiu, who was below the stage, was very angry. In the previous rounds of auction, he had taken out nearly 8,000 best-grade spirit stones, which was equivalent to nearly 80 million top-grade spirit stones. In this auction, the price had doubled. In other words, the best-grade spirit stones he had taken out were worth more than 150 million top-grade spirit stones. So much money had been earned by others. He was like an idiot. He had to suffer in silence. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't angry. Originally, he was thinking that he had disrupted the auction and felt a little guilty. Right now, the Wu clan had made a huge profit, and it was much better than the commission from the auction. It was likely that the rest of the supreme grade spirit stones had fallen into the Wu clan's pocket. Wu Sihai didn't expect the price to be doubled. In this way, he felt a little sorry for Yu Qianqiu. It was like slapping Yu Qianqiu's face and treating him like an idiot. Although he was thinking about it, he didn't show anything wrong on his face. He calmly ended the grand auction and welcomed everyone to the other free auctions. After the auction was over, those who left were naturally the 4 buyers who had obtained their treasures. After each of them claimed their treasures with their tokens, Dongfang Chang'ao and Qiu Wuyuan walked out of the auction house calmly, because they had already revealed themselves. Even if everyone knew that these 2 people had treasures and a huge amount of wealth, who would dare to rob them? As for the other buyers, the Wu clan arranged for them to enter the Wu clan through the secret passage. Then, they returned to their real bodies and quietly crossed the river to the Hat Island. No one knew who the second buyer was. As for Yu Qianqiu, naturally, after exiting the secret passage, he directly returned to the Jinka house in a huff. When Bai Zitsong and the others returned to the Jinka house from the Hat Island, they all surrounded Yu Qianqiu and looked at him. They all knew that he was rich, but they didn't expect him to be so rich. Wu Lixue, on the other hand, tilted her beautiful head and kept looking at him. She was thinking about a question that she didn't know when she would be able to figure out. How could he be so rich? Yu Qianqiu leaned on a chair and rolled his eyes at them. He said unhappily, "Don't disturb me. I'm annoyed." They smiled and didn't say anything. Then they heard a voice from outside. "What are you annoyed about? Is it because of those supreme grade spirit stones?" Outside the garden, Wu Sihai walked in alone with a smile on his face. All the juniors hurriedly bowed to him. He waved his hand at them and looked at Yu Qianqiu, who was sitting motionlessly on the chair. The latter was angry because of him, so he wouldn't greet him. "What? You're so angry that I took out the supreme grade spirit stones that you paid for in auction them?" Wu Sihai laughed. "Yo!" Yu Qianqiu stood up and rolled his eyes. "It seems like you already knew it was me. No wonder you're so unscrupulous." "What? That supreme grade spirit stone is yours?" Wu Liqing exclaimed. The others also looked at Yu Qianqiu in shock. How many secrets did this guy have? "Alright, this is not the place to talk. Yu Qianqiu, and the rest of you, follow me to the Elder Conference Hall," Wu Sihai said with a serious face. He then added, "Shui stay here." Oh, Wu Lixue felt wronged. It couldn't be helped. That was the family rule. Women were not allowed to enter the Elder Conference Hall. They turned around and left. Suddenly, a certain someone pretended not to hear them. Wu Liqing walked over and pulled Yu Qianqiu's arm. "Let's go. Let's go." "What? Can you be more polite? Don't drag it, I have something to do." Yu Qianqiu struggled. Bai Zitsong came over and clamped his other arm. "Stop nagging. What can you do?" Tan Fei and Jings were rolled up their sleeves and wanted to hug his leg. They wanted to carry him away. Wu Sihai turned around and smiled at the young people. He was happy for their friendship. "I'll go by myself. I'll go by myself. Damn it. Why is the Wu clan like a den of thieves?" Yu Qianqiu, who escaped from the clutches of the young people, said angrily, "Wait a minute. I still have something that I haven't given to Wu Lixue." He took out a red and black object from his storage bag and gave it to Wu Lixue. It was the so-called vermilion bird egg that he bought with 300,000 top-grade spirit stones. Wu Lixue took it and hugged it in her arms. She peeked at her grandfather secretly. Wu Sihai frowned. "Shui, what's going on?" Wu Liqing quickly took over the topic and explained. After listening, he looked at Yu Qianqiu and didn't say anything else. If it was in the past, he would definitely scold his granddaughter for accepting 300,000 top-grade spirit stones. However, it was a different story for Yu Qianqiu. Moreover, 300,000 was just a drop in the ocean for him. With Wu Sihai leading the way, the group of 6 arrived at the back of the Wu clan. It was the Wu clan's ancestral hall, which was also the Wu clan's elders' meeting hall. Bai Zizong and the others also felt strange. Why would Wu Sihai bring an outsider like Yu Qianqiu to such a place? Yu Qianqiu looked around along the way. He didn't seem to care, but he was actually looking around carefully. He noticed that the surroundings were loose on the outside but tight on the inside. The security was very tight. It was worthy of being the Wu clan's important place. After entering the Wu clan's ancestral hall, Wu Sihai dismissed the irrelevant people and led them to the main hall. Yu Qianqiu immediately saw many memorial tablets on the wooden table in the middle. It was obvious that they were the memorial tablets of the Wu clan's deceased clansmen. He couldn't help but mumble, "Why did this old man bring me here?" Looking further up, there was a portrait hanging on the wall above the wooden table, with many memorial tablets. The portrait was of an elegant old man wearing a plain robe. He was standing on a cliff with his hands behind his back. He was slightly tilting his body and looking at the stars in the sky. The old man's otherworldly and aloof aura was vividly displayed on the paper, especially the night scene depicted on the white paper in black ink. It was very admirable. The entire portrait was drawn very vividly, and it was obvious that a lot of effort was put into it. There were a few lines of small words at the corner of the portrait. Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but look at them carefully. Wu Sihai was the first to offer an incense stick, followed by Wu Liqing and the others. They respectfully knelt down and inserted the incense sticks into the incense burner. When Bai Zizong saw Yu Qianqiu looking around with a doubtful expression, he smiled and walked over with an incense stick. "The main hall is the portrait of my ancestor. Brother Yu, why don't you offer an incense stick as a token of respect?" However, he saw Yu Qianqiu staring at the portrait with his mouth wide open. What did he see? He was stunned by the few lines of words at the corner of the portrait. It was written as follows. The wise sages often said, "If the heavens have feelings, I was not confused back then. Now that I am older, I can understand some profound meaning after thinking about it. But it is too late. Deep regret. Hence, I left behind the portrait of the wise sage, by Changchun, for the future generations to admire." Tan Xiu's writing. Chapter 205. Oh my God. The old man in the painting is by Changchun? Are you kidding me? There's such a powerful guy in the 4 major clans? Is he the Bai Changchun that I know? He's a terrifying existence that could shake the entire Phantom region. Bai. Brother Bai Changchun is your ancestor? Yu Qianqiu tried to control his emotions, but he still stuttered. Yes. Bai Zizong looked at the painting and asked doubtfully. My ancestor has passed away for more than 2,000 years. Could it be that brother Yu has heard of my ancestor? Died for more than 2,000 years? So it's not the same person. That scared me to death. I was wondering, with such a terrifying guy around, the 4 major clans would be able to do whatever they want in the cultivation world. There's no need to keep such a low profile. Yu Qianqiu heaved a sigh of relief and wiped his forehead subconsciously. No. I just happen to know someone with the same name as your ancestor. He's still alive and well. By the way, who's Tan Xiu? Is he the ancestor of the Tan clan? He quickly changed the topic. He had no choice but to change the topic. Bai Changchun's reputation made people feel guilty. It was fine if they didn't know him, but they knew how terrifying he was. For example, at today's auction, he only vaguely borrowed his prestige, but he scared the number 1 sects of the righteous and demonic sects into silence. Amazing. Bai Zizong hesitated for a while. He didn't know if he should say it. He turned to look at Wu Sihai, who nodded in agreement. He smiled and said, It's Tan Fei's ancestor. He's from the same generation as my ancestor. Ancestor Tan Fei was skilled in painting. He painted 4 similar paintings, and they're placed in the ancestral halls of the 4 major clans. Good painting. Since he's Brother Bai's ancestor, I'll offer some incense to show my respect. Yu Qianqiu smiled and took the incense from his hand. After lighting it on the incense table, he bowed 3 times on the cattail hassock and lit the incense. At the side, Wu Sihai looked at the portrait and then looked at Yu Qianqiu. He frowned. After Yu Qianqiu finished offering the incense, he suddenly said in a deep voice, "Yu Qianqiu, where is the person with the same name as the Bai family's ancestor?" Yu Qianqiu had just turned around, but his face stiffened when he heard that. He smiled awkwardly and said, "I can't remember it either. I think it was some barren land. Old master, why are you asking this?" Wu Sihai's eyes flickered as he stared at him. Finally, he shifted his attention to the portrait and said leisurely, "The Bai family's ancestor was gifted by the heavens. He was a rogue cultivator. When he was over 200 years old, his cultivation reached the final stage of tribulation passing. His Xian skill was rare in the world, but he didn't learn it from others. He created it himself by misleading the heavenly Tao. With such talent, he should be famous in the cultivation world, but he didn't like to show off. Therefore, few people in the cultivation world know Bai Changchun's name. Even if there are people who know him, they're all defeated by him. Presumably he wouldn't show off. Now he's gone. He's indeed a talent." Yu Qianqiu praised the portrait, but his heart was beating fast. Could this Bai Changchun really be the Bai Changchun from before? He scratched his head and asked, "Old master, what do you mean by telling me this?" Bai Zizong and the others also looked at Wu Sihai. They didn't know why he suddenly said this. "Yu Qianqiu, you must have heard of a rumor?" Wu Sihai asked. Yu Qianqiu was stunned and said, "What rumor?" "There's a rumor that the Tan, Jing, and Wu families originated from the Bai family. I can tell you clearly that this rumor is true. The ancestors of the 3 families were originally the followers of the Bai family's ancestor. They had always been by his side and listened to his orders. It could also be said that the ancestors of the 3 families were the disciples of the Bai family's ancestor. Unfortunately, the Bai family's ancestors' Xian skills were all comprehended from the heavenly Tao. It's different from the current cultivation world's method of increasing cultivation by accumulating spiritual qi over a long period of time. It could be said that it was a different path on the path of cultivation. It's not something that can be learned just because you want to learn it. He can show you the way, but in the end, it's still up to you to understand it. Once you understand it, your cultivation will advance by leaps and bounds. Unfortunately, no one in the 3 families, including the main Bai family, has this kind of understanding in the past 2,000 years. Wu Sihai shook his head and sighed. There's such a cultivation method? Yu Qianqiu was speechless. He thought, could it be the same as the legendary enlightenment in his previous life? Once enlightened, one can ascend to the heavens? Wu Sihai nodded and sighed. When the Bai family's ancestor reached 300 years old one day, he suddenly dismissed the 3 families. He asked us to establish our own sects in the cultivation world and support each other. He said that he suddenly had an epiphany and was going to cultivate in seclusion and not care about the world. The 3 families obeyed his order, but the cultivation world is a dog-eat-dog world. It's really difficult to establish a sect. Therefore, the Bai family's ancestor flew all over the world for a few days and secretly challenged the heads and top experts of the 10 major sects of the righteous and demonic sections. Within 3 moves, he forced them to swear a venomous oath to keep this secret. He also restricted their sects to not provoke the 4 major families for no reason during their lifetime. Because of this, the 4 major families got the opportunity to start developing, and that's how the 4 major families came to be today. Bai Zizong and the others heard this, and their faces were full of pride. The descendants benefited from the ancestors' methods. On the other hand, Yu Qianqiu was shocked. The 10 major sects were full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. The experts who cultivated in seclusion could not be estimated by outsiders. Moreover, it was inevitable that they would have some treasures in their hands. He had personally experienced on Guangsung, but none of the experts from the 10 major sects of the righteous and demonic sects could last more than 3 moves against Bai Changchun. Oh my God! What kind of method is this? How powerful was he in the past? Yu Qianqiu gulped and said, "It's a pity that none of the 4 major families could inherit the Bai family's ancestors' Xian technique. What a pity, what a pity!" It's easier said than done. Wu Sihai shook his head and said, it's because it's difficult. In order to maintain our current status, the four major families have no choice but to rely on spiritual energy to cultivate like other cultivators. Otherwise, the four major families would have disappeared long ago. Yu Qianqiu sighed and suddenly said, Old man, this is the secret of the four major families. Why are you telling an outsider like me? Because you said you know a person named Bai Changchun. I want to know where he is. Wu Sihai stared at him and said. Yu Qianqiu smiled and said, I know of such a person. But you can't be thinking that he is the same person as the Bai family's ancestor, right? Do you really think someone can live for more than 2,000 years? The others also agreed with Yu Qianqiu's words and looked at Wu Sihai doubtfully. It's very possible. Wu Sihai nodded seriously. Yu Qianqiu's heart was thumping. He was almost sure that they were the same person. Otherwise, how could there be two people with the same name and surname? The probability of this was almost zero. However, he still put on a look of disbelief, because he really did not want such a terrifying person to be used by others. Just thinking about it made him uncomfortable. Bai Zizong and the others also did not believe it. Wu Sihai sighed and said, when the four major families started to stabilize, the Bai family's ancestor gathered the four of them together and told them that he was very likely to break through to the legendary demigod stage. However, the Tao was ruthless. He needed to cut off all worldly ties and have no distractions in his heart. Only then could he concentrate on his cultivation. He also told the four of them to support each other from now on. He would no longer interfere with worldly affairs and told them to take care of themselves. Just like that, the Bai family's ancestor floated away and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 206. What? Soul-forming stage. The juniors exclaimed. This was probably the first time they heard of such a secret. Yu Qianqiu was completely speechless. The old man in the painting was indeed the Bai Changchun who hid in that place. He was really heartless. He ran away from home for more than 2,000 years. Even if he didn't die, he still didn't go home. Was this what it meant to cut off all ties with the secular world? Wu Sihai nodded. According to the legends, if he really broke through to the soul-forming final stage, he should have no problem living for more than 2,000 years. Yu Qianqiu, can you tell me now, where is this Bai Changchun you know? This time, even Bai Zizong and the other three looked at Yu Qianqiu with fiery eyes. The consequences of having another soul-forming stage cultivator in the four major clans was obvious. The latter rubbed his nose and smiled bitterly. It's not that I don't want to tell you. I really have my own difficulties. I'll decide if I want to tell you after I think about it. Besides, I only heard it from others. I can't confirm that he is the ancestor of the Bai clan. Oh, then can you tell me who told you? Wu Sihai asked. I can't tell you that either. After Yu Qianqiu said that, he saw everyone frowning. He couldn't help but put on a sincere and well-intentioned look. Old man, don't be unhappy. That person is not someone your four major clans can afford to offend. Even Fuxian Island and 10,000 demons don't dare to offend him. They have already suffered a great loss in his hands. They're such a powerful person. Wu Sihai was surprised. Old man, I have to say something that you're not happy about. This world is very big. What you see is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many people as powerful as that person. It's just that no one knows about them. Didn't you see Dongfang Chang'eo and Qiu Wuyuan's reaction today? Today, I borrowed that person's name. And you saw the result. Yu Qianqiu smiled bitterly. Hearing him say this, everyone was shocked. So that's how it was. No wonder Qiu Wuyuan would call Yu Qianqiu senior at that time. Wu Sihai hesitated. There are so many powerful people? Why have I never heard of it? It's fine if you haven't heard of it. It might not be a good thing for the four clans to know. They won't interfere with the matters of the cultivation world easily anyway, said Yu Qianqiu with a smile. He didn't even know if what he said was true or false. So why did he have to be so clear about it? If you really managed to invite that old monster out, would your four great clans still be of use to me? Wu Sihai hesitated for a moment before asking. Yu Qianqiu, tell me honestly, are these people related to the force behind you? Yu Qianqiu waved his hand at him and didn't want to continue this topic. He changed the topic and asked, "Oh right, old man, why did you bring me here?" Seeing that he still didn't want to say it, Wu Sihai paused for a moment and took out a storage bag and threw it over, saying, "Today's auction made you suffer some losses. This is the 10 million high-grade spirit stones that my Wu clan will return to you as compensation." Yu Qianqiu hugged the storage bag and smiled, saying, "This is a good relationship, and I'm in need of money to spend." The four of them felt disgusted. "You're in need of money to spend?" Wu Sihai shook his head and smiled bitterly. He brought Yu Qianqiu here because he wanted to show his sincerity and say some nice words to strengthen the relationship between Wu Liqing and the others. Of course, this was because he fancied the faint force behind Yu Qianqiu. But the previous episode made some things clear. For example, the force behind you. If he said nice words now, it would make the other party think that he fancied the force behind you. And that wouldn't be good. Since that was the case, he might as well let nature take its course. They didn't know that Yu Qianqiu wanted them to think that he had a powerful force behind him, who asked him to not be powerful at all. And he could only do things like using the name of the world's #1 faction, Fuxian Island. He wasn't afraid of stirring up trouble outside because he had a backer. Otherwise, he would have been hunted down long ago. How could he still be leisurely here? "Old man, why are there 5 artifacts refined by divine craftsmen in today's auction? They might not be top-notch artifacts, but they are all ancient artifacts. Don't you think it's strange?" Yu Qianqiu suddenly asked. "Aren't these 5 items all yours? Why do you care so much?" Wu Sihai said in a bad mood. It was obvious that he was still a little angry that Yu Qianqiu didn't want to reveal Bai Changchun's whereabouts. Yu Qianqiu pretended that he didn't hear it and continued to ask, "Old man, could it be that they were all taken out by the same person?" Wu Sihai made a non-committal "oh" sound, which could be considered as an admission. Yu Qianqiu's eyes lit up, and he didn't want to let it go. "Who is it?" The former coughed and said, "This concerns the reputation of my Wu clan's auction house. Don't ask about this, and I won't tell you even if you ask. Unless you tell me the whereabouts of Bai Changchun, I can consider telling you about the seller." Bullsh *T reputation, old fox. If you don't tell me, I won't ask anymore. What does it have to do with me who the seller is? Yu Qianqiu scratched his head and acted as though the weather outside was very good. He said, "Old man, if there is nothing else, I will go back first." In fact, the topic that Yu Qianqiu just asked also caused a lot of commotion among the other people who participated in the auction today. 5 treasures refined by a divine craftsman actually appeared at once. If there were other things like spiritual treasures, it would be a big problem that was enough to affect the entire cultivation world. There was also the appearance of 2,000 top-grade spirit stones. Did this mean that there might be a top-grade spirit stone mine? If any sect could get their hands on it, their overall strength would definitely soar. In places like the 100 Flowers Valley and Hat Island, almost every sect had a shop. Sometimes they didn't care about how much money they could make, but mainly to ensure the smooth flow of information. Therefore, almost every shop had a kind of communication array. The cost of setting up this array was quite high, so some sects that were too weak couldn't afford it at all. The news was constantly sent back to the sects from those people, and the sects also sent a large number of people to inquire everywhere. For a time, the silent cultivation world was completely lively. At night, Yu Qianqiu was in the bedroom of the quiet guest house. He couldn't calm down to cultivate at all. He was really affected by some things that happened during the day. He had seen the financial resources of those big sects in today's auction. If he hadn't happened to find the top-grade spirit stone mine in the demon ghost domain, he wouldn't even be worthy to carry their shoes. They were really big sects with deep roots in the cultivation world. He believed that the financial resources they showed were only a part of their strength. Moreover, most of the sects had their own spirit stone mine, which could continuously accumulate wealth. But his own money was going to be less every time he used it. It couldn't be regenerated. There was also the mysterious seller. He didn't know if he had other more powerful magic treasures, refined by other divine craftsmen. What shocked him the most was Wu Sihai's words. Bai Changchun was actually a rogue cultivator, who had cultivated to the soul formation stage. At the age of 200, his cultivation had reached the late stage of the crossing calamity stage. This was simply incredible, not to mention that he was a rogue cultivator without the support of a sect. When he was 300 years old, he was able to challenge the top experts of the righteous and devil sects alone, and none of them could take more than 3 moves from him. Yu Qianqiu sat cross-legged on the bed with his eyes closed, murmuring to himself, "The great Tao, the heavenly Tao, the Tao of 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 Tao, the enlightenment, the cultivation of 1,000 miles in a day, the creation of a mystic technique, damn it. I wonder what kind of secret art this self-created Xian art is. Isn't it a little too awesome? If I had known earlier, I would have memorized the Tao Te Ching in my previous life. Who knows, I might have been able to create some kind of Xian technique now. AI. I can't stand it. It's so exciting." Chapter 207. After tossing and turning for half a night, he was unable to meditate. He wanted to sleep without a care in the world, but his mind was full of magic skills, and he had a belly full of evil fire. He got up and listened carefully. It was quiet outside, so he disappeared from the bed and appeared directly in Chu Ping'er's room. Chu Ping'er, who was meditating, suddenly heard movement beside her and was startled. Before she could react, a hand covered her mouth, followed by the familiar smell of a man. Then another hand reached into her collar and rubbed her chest wantonly. Chu Ping'er immediately leaned back in the man's arms and let him take off her clothes. The room was filled with the panting and moaning of spring. After venting, Yu Qianqiu felt much better. He used his divine sense to sweep the entire misty palace, and found that his parents and brother were already asleep. Then he swept past Bai Suzhen's room, but found that she was not in the room. He was slightly stunned, and immediately released his divine sense to check. On the cliff opposite the misty palace, a white figure was playing the zither and singing under the moonlight. Who else could it be but Bai Suzhen? Yu Qianqiu gently pushed away the plump, white and tender naked body that refused to let go and said, "You sleep first. I have something to do at Guan Yu's place." "Okay." Chu Ping'er was extremely sad and let go of him reluctantly. He smiled guiltily and apologetically, put on his clothes and disappeared, leaving a stunning beauty alone on the bed, hugging the pillow he had just slept on. "So I am indifferent to prosperity. Only happy for you. I want to accompany you away from loneliness and freedom." Bai Suzhen finished singing, and her jade-like fingers strummed the strings, echoing faintly. She asked without turning her head, "The song is very nice. I like it very much. You haven't told me what the name is." "You mean the name of the song?" Yu Qianqiu was stunned. Bai Suzhen turned her head and looked at him, as if she had already known that he was coming. Her beautiful face smiled against the silver moonlight, and she nodded. "Heh, let me think." Yu Qianqiu scratched his head. He really didn't remember which song it was pirated from when she suddenly asked him. Fortunately, he remembered in time and nodded. "Go back. Gui Qi Lai?" Bai Suzhen furrowed her brows and murmured to herself. Then, her brows relaxed and she smiled gently under the moonlight. She sighed and said, "I'm afraid no one in this world can compare to you in terms of musical attainments." Yu Qianqiu was a little embarrassed by her words. Fortunately, he was used to being thick-skinned, so if he did not look carefully, he would not be able to tell. He smiled awkwardly and said, "Whether this thing is good or bad, it can't be eaten, and it can't be used to improve one's cultivation. It's just something I made casually. Sister, you don't have to take it to heart." Bai Suzhen smiled faintly and looked into the distance, feeling the night wind blowing. Yu Qianqiu was stunned. He took out the items from his storage pouch and placed them on the zither. He smiled and said, "I bought them for you. Give them to Chu Ping'er. I don't need these things." Bai Suzhen lowered her head and glanced at them. Before she finished speaking, she suddenly stood up. She stared at the items on the zither, as if she was struck by lightning. Her voice trembled as she said, "Cloud-chasing hairpin, Qiyin handkerchief, snow luo gown, snow long damask." Yu Qianqiu was a little shocked. This was an ancient item. How could anyone tell what it was with a single glance? Furthermore, she looked very excited. Yu Qianqiu could not help but ask curiously, "Sis, Have you seen these things before? How did these things end up in your hands? How could these things end up in your hands? Tell me, how did you get them? Baisujan's voice became more and more excited. Her hands, which were half out of her white sleeves, were slightly trembling. Sister, what's wrong? Yu Qianqiu also became a little nervous. Baisujan grabbed him and almost begged. Quickly tell me, how did you get them? These are things I bought from the auction house. Sister, calm down. What's wrong? What does these things have to do with you? Yu Qianqiu's hands steadied her shoulders. You bought them from the auction house? Baisujan broke free from his hands and picked up the snow luo gown. She flipped open the waistband and under the moonlight, she could clearly see the two words little snow. She immediately shook her head in a daze and said, Impossible, impossible, you're lying to me. How could the auction house have these things? How could these things be auctioned? You're lying. Seeing that she was about to lose control of her emotions, Yu Qianqiu suddenly opened his arms and pulled her into his embrace tightly. He said in a low voice, Calm down, calm down, calm down. Tell me what's going on. What do these things have to do with you? Baisujan, who was about to struggle, smelled the scent coming from his body and was instantly startled. Her breathing gradually calmed down and after a long time she said, I'm fine, let go of me. Yu Qianqiu slowly released her and said in a soft voice, What's going on? Baisujan gently hugged the snow luo gown and looked into the distance. She said, These 4 things are treasures that have been passed down through the generations of my fox clan. Although they are not top-grade treasures, they are the tokens of the clan leaders. So only the clan leader has the right to wear and use them. Before I was expelled from the fox clan, these 4 treasures belonged to my mother. Because of me, my mother took them off and gave them to the next clan leader. You were expelled from the fox clan? Yu Qianqiu was a little surprised. Yes, Baisujan slowly told the story. In the bitter cold lands of the far north, there was a group of snow foxes. They were the fox clan that Baisujan was originally from. The fox clan was also part of the Yao clan. The Yao clan had a lifespan that humans could not compare to. And Baisujan had just gained sentience over 1,000 years ago. She was still a little fox and could not take human form. However, she had heard many legends about love between humans from her sisters. There were also stories about the love between the fox clan and humans. It was abnormally sad and mellow. The little fox was curious and full of admiration. She longed to experience the life of humans. So she sneaked out of the far north and ran in the direction of the legendary human residence. But when she finally arrived at the place where humans lived after many hardships, she discovered that everything was not as perfect as she had imagined. Almost all of the humans who saw her would want to kill her. There were sharp arrows flying at her from all directions. And when she hid in the deep mountains and forests, there were ferocious beasts that wanted to prey on her. She was completely panicked. So she ran and ran. She did not know how far she had run. But one day, she was shot by a hunter in a forest. She thought she was going to die, but she was saved by a scholar. The scholar carefully saved her. Just when her injuries were almost healed, her mother, who had planted a strand of divine sense in the little fox's body, found her and brought her back to the fox clan in the far north. Ever since the little fox returned, the image of the scholar had been lingering in her mind. After cultivating for hundreds of years in the extreme north, she had already begun to cultivate. Although she was still unable to transform into a human form, she believed that she could already protect herself. She suggested to her mother that she wanted to repay the scholar's kindness. Her mother smiled and agreed to it, but she also made a request. That was, if she could not find the scholar, she must return. The little fox did not know the affairs of the world. How could she know that her mother agreed so readily? It was because ordinary humans could not live for hundreds of years. When she found the place where the scholar lived, it was already green mountains. Everything remained the same, but the people had changed. After wandering around the area for several years, the little fox was disappointed. She went back to the fox clan to report to her mother. She begged her mother to let her go out to cultivate. Normally, a normal fox clan would not be allowed to do so. But her mother had just taken over the position of clan leader and had some special privileges. She could not resist her daughter's request and agreed. Chapter 208. Thus, she once again went to the place where the scholar had lived. After wandering around for a while, she entered the mountains not far away to cultivate. Time passed quickly in the mountains, and several hundred years passed in the outside world. When she came out of the mountains again, she was a beautiful woman who had taken human form. In the past few hundred years, aside from returning to the Fox clan once every 10 years, she devoted herself to cultivating wholeheartedly. When her mother discovered that her daughter's cultivation outside was actually much faster than in the Fox clan, she acquiesced to her daughter's freedom and allowed her to cultivate outside for long periods of time. Another 10 years later, when she returned from the Fox clan, she went to the place where the scholar had lived. To her surprise, she discovered that a new thatched hut had been built there. Hearing the sound of someone reading a book, she could not help but walk over to take a look. When she looked out the window, her body immediately shook. It was another scholar, and he looked very similar to the one from back then. That scholar had suddenly discovered such a beautiful woman, and was also dumbfounded. Thus, something happened that caused the entire Fox clan to be enraged. The ancestors of this branch of the Fox clan had passed down a strict rule that no matter if the Fox clan was male or female, they were not allowed to have an ill-fated relationship with any human in the secular world. Otherwise, they would be executed. When she returned to the Fox clan, she knew that she would inevitably die. But who would have thought that she would be saved by the male branch of the Fox clan? The Fox clan was split into two branches, male and female. It had always been the female branch that held the position of clan leader. Who would have thought that the head of the male branch would find her mother, who was the clan leader of the entire Fox clan? He said that he was willing to protect her daughter's life, but the condition was that she would pass on the position of clan leader to the male branch. It was natural for one to lick one's calf, so the female clan leader agreed. As a result, the male branch mobilized a powerful force and used more than half of the people to forcefully violate the rules that had been in place for countless years, finally protecting Bai Sujin's life. She could escape punishment, but she could not escape the fate of being banished. Her mother also passed on the 4 treasures of the Snow clan, which symbolized the authority of the clan leader, to the male branch under great pressure. The male branch finally got his wish, and rightfully obtained the position of the clan leader. The rules of the Snow Fox clan, that had lasted for countless years, were finally broken. Yu Qianqiu knew what happened after that. After listening, Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but sigh. He didn't expect these 4 treasures to have such an origin. No wonder Bai Sujin was so excited. He couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Since they are the inheritance treasures of your Fox clan, how did they end up here? It must have something to do with the male line of your Fox clan. I don't know. Bai Sujin painfully shook her head and said, "Let me go. I want to go back to the extreme north to take a look. Although I have already been banished from the Fox clan, I want to see what happened to the Fox clan. Why would the inheritance treasures end up in the auction house?" Yu Qianqiu hugged her and sincerely said, "Don't be anxious. Wait until I find out the origin of these 4 treasures. It won't be too late for you to go. Otherwise, you won't be able to come up with any conclusions if you run around without thinking. You have to trust me and wait patiently for a period of time." Bai Sujin clearly didn't want to wait any longer. "Listen to me, okay?" Yu Qianqiu indifferently said to her. Bai Sujin seemed to have no immunity to his words. She dejectedly lowered her head and agreed. Yu Qianqiu suddenly frowned and said, "These 4 treasures have been passed down in your Fox clan for so many years. Could it be that Little Snow is related to your Fox clan?" Bai Sujin, whose emotions had gradually calmed down, suddenly realized that she was in his arms. Her charming face instantly blushed. She slightly lowered her head and replied with her body trembling uncontrollably. "In ancient times, Little Snow was a member of my Fox clan. Legend has it that she was a soul formation stage expert of my Fox clan. Later on, she followed a human man called Emoruki to cultivate. When she returned, she used her martial power to unite the Fox clan that was originally scattered in the extreme north. That was how the extreme north unified the Snow Fox clan. Those clan rules that were passed down were set by her. Little Snow is also from the Fox clan? Yu Qianqiu was stunned. So the divine craftsman was as great as him. He also had a fox spirit with a profound cultivation by his side. That's right. Our Fox clan doesn't know how to refine weapons. Most of the treasures we use are refined by that human called Emoruki. They were brought back by Little Snow. Other than what Little Snow used, most of the other treasures have Emoruki's name on them, including the mountain-piercing claw that you used. Speaking up to here, Bai Suzhen took the opportunity to escape from his arms. She took out the mountain-piercing claw and opened it for him to read. Yu Qianqiu looked carefully and found the words Emoruki in a lighter color. He really didn't expect that he had already used the treasures refined by the divine craftsman. He nodded and sighed. So that's how it is. I understand. Since these are the treasures of your Fox clan, you can keep them first. Looking at the sky that was already slightly brightening, he continued, I will go and find out how these treasures got here. Don't worry and leave it to me. Oh right, I still need you to take care of my family. After saying that, he disappeared. In fact, the last sentence was because he was afraid that she would miss her clan too much, so he purposely told her to do something to distract her. After Yu Qianqiu returned, he sorted out the details of the whole matter. He opened the door and directly knocked on the door of Wu Liqing's room, who was accompanying guests at the quiet guest house. The latter heard the sound and opened the door. He was stunned and said, Yu Qianqiu? What's the matter? Bring me to your grandfather. I have something to talk to him about. Yu Qianqiu said directly. Now, Wu Liqing looked at the sky outside and said doubtfully, Isn't it a little too early? The commotion here had also attracted Bai Zitsong and the other two. They all asked, What's the matter? Yu Qianqiu ignored the others and dragged him out. Don't be so long-winded. I have something important to talk to your grandfather about. Bring me there quickly. Wu Liqing helplessly led him and the others out of the quiet guest house. After arriving at the living room of the largest manor in the Wu clan, he asked him to wait for a while and went to look for his grandfather. Not long after, Wu Sihai arrived. He also looked at the sky, then looked at Yu Qianqiu and asked curiously, What do you want from me? Yu Qianqiu rolled his eyes and said, If there's nothing important, why would I disturb you so early in the morning? Wu Sihai smiled and said, Oh. He looked at the others and said, What's the matter? Do you want to avoid them? We are all brothers. There's no need to avoid them, Yu Qianqiu said indifferently. The others looked at each other and felt a little warmth in their hearts. It must be something important to look for me at this time. Come with me. This is not the place to talk, Wu Sihai said, and led them to a secret room. He turned around and asked, What's the matter? Just say it. Yu Qianqiu looked at him and said bluntly, I want to know who the seller of the 4 sets of treasures is. Bai Zitsong and the others looked at each other. Why did he ask this again at this time? Wu Sihai was startled. He put his hands behind his back and shook his head with a smile. I already said that I can't tell you about this. This matter concerns the reputation of the entire Wu clan auction house. Moreover, the seller didn't show his face from the beginning. How can I know who it is? Someone auctioned 5 artifacts refined by a divine craftsman at once. How can you not know who it is? Even if you haven't seen it before. I believe that even if a bird flew across your Wu clan's territory, you would be able to tell its gender, let alone a living person. Otherwise, this place wouldn't be called the Wu clan's territory. Alright, we are going a little too far. I promised you that as long as you tell me who the seller of these 4 treasures is, I will tell you Bai Changchun's whereabouts. After Yu Qianqiu finished speaking, he was afraid that it wasn't enough, so he added, I can basically confirm that this Bai Changchun is the ancestor of the Bai family. His cultivation has indeed reached the soul formation stage. I can guarantee you this. Ah, the others exclaimed in unison. This news was too important to the 4 major clans. Wu Sihai lost his composure and asked, Are you serious? Don't worry. I am a man of my words. Even if I don't give face to the Wu clan patriarch, I will still give face to my 4 brothers. I won't lie to you. Yu Qianqiu smiled indifferently. What he was implying was that he didn't associate with the 4 major clans, because of the power of the four major clans. Chapter 209. Wu Sihai hesitated for a moment, and then a trace of decisiveness flashed through his eyes. He nodded and said, "Deal." As expected of someone who's used to doing business. Yu Qianqiu smiled and said, "Lord Master, who exactly is that person?" Wu Sihai's expression was solemn as he said, "This person has never revealed his true appearance. But as you said, our Wu clan has been operating here for many years. We naturally have our own methods to find out who he is. Not to mention the sudden appearance of a mysterious patron. Even if it's for the safety of our Wu clan, we still have to find out who he is. It's just that we're quite shocked to find out who he is. I hope that you won't drag our Wu clan into this. This person's background isn't simple." Yu Qianqiu waved his hand. "I know what to do even without your instructions. It won't be related to your Wu clan. Who is it?" Wu Sihai frowned. "The young palace master of the 100 Flowers Palace, Yan Juexing." "It's him? Yu Qianqiu by Zitsong," and the others exclaimed in surprise. The five of them looked at each other, and then they fell silent. They seemed to be surprised, but at the same time, it seemed to be reasonable. Wu Sihai glanced at them and asked, "What's wrong? Do you have a relationship with this person?" "Not really." Wu Liqing shook his head. "This person seems to be very friendly on the surface, and he likes to make friends. What happened to Xue in the gurgling house is indirectly related to him. She owed him a favor in the 100 Flowers Valley." "Friendly on the surface? What do you mean?" Wu Sihai stared at his grandson and asked. "He's very friendly and smart. He's so smart that I suspect he has ulterior motives. And we don't dare to get too close to him. Brother Yu, on the other hand, eats whatever he wants and he doesn't hold back." Wu Liqing smiled. Yu Qianqiu glared and pretended to be angry. "What are you talking about? What do you mean I don't hold back? When did I skip your share? Do you think I'm the only one eating?" They looked at each other and were completely speechless, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. In fact, Wu Liqing really wanted to say, "Every time we eat, you eat more than the four of us." "Let's not talk about that for now." Wu Sihai waved his hand and said, "Yu Qianqiu, can you tell me where old ancestor Bai is now?" Yu Qianqiu sighed and said, "Can't you four clans give up on looking for him?" "No." Wu Sihai denied it right away. He sighed deeply and said, "You don't know what Patriarch Bai means to us four clans. It's not that we want to rely on him or anything. It's just that some people in the four clans think that it's meaningless for the four clans to be united for their own benefit. They are encouraging each other to set up their own sections. The situation is getting more and more intense. I don't know how many people are eyeing the four clans covetously. Once the four clans are separated, they are in danger of being annexed at any time. These people are short-sighted." Yu Qianqiu's gaze swept over by Zitsong's group of four. He thought to himself, "So it turns out that the four great clans are having internal strife. For Wu Sihai to say such words in front of these four people, it's likely that these four first successors don't agree with the idea of splitting the clan." Bai Zitsong suddenly put a hand on his shoulder and sighed. "Brother, you say it. The four clans need old ancestor now." Yu Qianqiu nodded and said, "How much do you know about the demon domain?" "The demon domain?" They were shocked. Wu Sihai said in a low voice, "You mean old ancestor is in the demon domain?" "Yes, he is cultivating in seclusion in the center of the demon domain." "Are you sure that you four clans can enter there?" Yu Qianqiu asked. "The center of the demon domain? Why is old ancestor living in seclusion there?" Wu Sihai paced around and pondered. After a long time, he exhaled and said, "Rumor has it that the demon domain has the 10 great demon kings and the ghost king. All of them have extraordinary cultivation. I have never heard of anyone who can enter the center of the demon domain. My clan may not be able to do it, but with the strength of the four clans, it shouldn't be a problem." "Hee." Yu Qianqiu sneered disdainfully. "You four clans want to go deep into the center of the demon domain. The top 3 sects of the righteous and demon sects combined only dared to stay on the Sky Cloud Peak, which was not far from the periphery of the demon domain. They didn't dare to go too far away from the Sky Cloud Peak during the trial." Seeing him sneer, Wu Sihai was startled and said, Do you think that the 4 clans can't reach the center of the demon domain? Yu Qianqiu sneered and said, I don't know how strong the 4 clans are, but I know that you are dreaming. You are talking about something that the 4 clans can't do. Not to mention the 4 clans. Even if the entire Huaxia Empire were to join forces, they might not be able to enter the center of the demon domain. Bai Zizong and the others were shocked, but Wu Sihai shook his head and said, Yu Qianqiu, do you know how big the Huaxia Empire is? How many cultivators are there? Yu Qianqiu said expressionlessly, I don't care how big the Huaxia Empire is, but I know that the entire demon domain has a radius of tens of millions of miles. It is at least several times the size of the Huaxia Empire. Hey, the demon domain has such a large area? Wu Sihai was startled, then he changed the topic and said with a smile, although the demon domain is powerful, don't underestimate the cultivation world of the Huaxia Empire. It is different from what you see on the surface. According to the information collected by the Wu clan over the years, there are hundreds of cultivators in the final stage of the passing calamity stage who rarely show themselves. If these people join forces, where can't we go? The 10 great demon kings and the 10 ghost king can't stop them. Humph, Yu Qianqiu snorted and said, Old master, do you really think that the entire demon domain only has the 10 great demon kings and the 10 ghost king? Isn't it? Wu Sihai asked. Old master, I told you where the ancestor of the Bai clan is, so there is no need to talk nonsense. However, for the sake of my 4 brothers, there are some things I still have to remind your 4 clans. After a pause, Yu Qianqiu said word by word, Old master, listen carefully. The periphery of the demon domain is guarded by the 10 great demon kings and the 10 ghost king. A demon king and a ghost king jointly control a territory. The demon king is in charge of the yang, and the ghost king is in charge of the yin. This is the periphery, and the inside is the most chaotic and dangerous place in the demon domain. There are probably nearly 10,000 demon kings and ghost king who have reached the final stage of the passing calamity stage. As for the other countless demons and ghosts, it is needless to say. Old master, do you still think the power of your 4 clans can enter the central area of the demon domain? I'm afraid that none of you can come out alive. They were stunned. Wu Sihai swallowed and said, Nearly 10,000 demon kings and ghost king? How is this possible? If the demon domain had such strength, wouldn't it have occupied the human territory a long time ago? Humph. There are naturally secrets that outsiders don't know. Maybe you will have a chance to find out in the future. That's all I have to say the 4 clans should know. Yu Qianqiu cupped his hands and said to Bai Zizong and the others, Thank you for your hospitality these days. I have something to do and have to leave. My 4 brothers, goodbye. Wait. Wu Sihai stopped him and frowned. According to what you said, the 4 clans have no chance to find the ancestor at all. But I have never heard of what you said. Why are you so familiar with the situation of the demon domain? Chapter 210. He was doubting what he had said. Yu Qianqiu smiled. It's okay if you haven't heard of it. You'll know when you get to the monster ghost region. You're so sure. Have you gone deep into the monster ghost region? Wu Sihai asked. Yu Qianqiu's heart skipped a beat. He curled his lips and said, I can't say deep. I've been touring around the monster ghost region for a few days. I just have some friendship with the ghost king that you mentioned. They were shocked again. This guy's secrets had been peeled off one layer after another. Wu Sihai put on a look of disbelief and said, As far as I know, the 10 great monster kings and the 10 ghost kings never interact with people from the outside world. You said that you have some friendship with them. Forgive me for finding it hard to believe. I even doubt that what you said about the Bai clan's ancestor is true. Bai Zizong and the other 3 looked at Wu Sihai in surprise. They wondered why he would say such rude words. Yu Qianqiu smiled calmly. Old man, what I said is true. I can't help it if you don't believe me. Time is the best proof. In short, I have a clear conscience. Wu Sihai looked at him and said, You said that you have some friendship with the ghost king of the monster ghost region. Do you have any evidence that can convince me? If you do, you can show me. It will make me feel at ease. Old fox, Yu Qianqiu sneered secretly. He scratched his head and smiled bitterly. I really don't know how to prove it. Old man. Among the 10 ghost kings of the monster ghost region, there's a ghost general called the Ghost King. Have you heard of him? The ghost general of the monster ghost region. He was born at the wrong time. Even after his death, he is always in pain and regrets. He cries every night. Wu Sihai paced and murmured. He suddenly turned around and said, the ghost general should be the ghost king. If you are talking about him, I have heard of him. This ghost general seems to be the only well-known ghost king in the Huaxia cultivation world. You mean him? Do you have some friendship with the ghost general? Bai Zizong and the others looked at Yu Qianqiu. The latter nodded and said, it seems that only he is known in the Huaxia cultivation world. I have some friendship with him, and I have some evidence. I just don't know if you believe me. Wu Sihai raised his eyebrows. Then he calmed down and said calmly, then you might as well say it first. It seems that if I don't tell you something, you will treat me as a liar. But let me make it clear in advance. There are some things that only the 4 families know. Don't tell it to anyone else. Otherwise, don't blame me for not warning you when you get into trouble. Yu Qianqiu warned him deliberately. Of course. Wu Sihai nodded repeatedly. His eyes had lit up because of his words. Maybe he could know some unknown secrets. People were born to be curious. Yu Qianqiu nodded slightly and said slowly, this ghost general was a general who fought with the ancestors of the Li family in the previous dynasty. He was defeated and died. By chance, he became a ghost cultivator. After his cultivation was successful, he gathered his old subordinates who died in the battle and gathered hundreds of thousands of ghost cultivators. Finally, he became a ghost king of the monster ghost region. His original name is Mengyan. What? The ghost general is Mengyan? Wu Sihai suddenly lost his voice. Yu Qianqiu was stunned and said, why? You know him? But in his heart he muttered, that's impossible. Wu Sihai said in a deep voice, in history, there was indeed an iron-blooded general who fought with the Li clan's ancestors for the world. His name was Mengyan. He was supposed to be the winner, but because the cultivation world intervened in the war, he died with a grudge. Haha. Your Fuxian Island is the culprit. I continue with what you said. So it was history. Yu Qianqiu rolled his eyes for free and continued. Meng Yan had a beautiful concubine named Yu Ji. The 2 of them lived happily in the monster ghost region. I have a good relationship with the couple. When I was playing in the monster ghost region, they treated me warmly and gave me a ghost king token. Whether it is a demon or a ghost, they have to give me some face when they see this token. When I was playing in the monster ghost region, I avoided being disappointed by some small fries. That's the general relationship between me and Ghost General. As for whether I can make you believe me or not, I can't do anything about it. He said it casually, but they didn't know that it shocked them. This guy was actually playing in the monster ghost region that everyone in the cultivation world was afraid of. Was there any justice in this world? This sounded a little absurd, but the few of them firmly believed it, because the story behind this fellow could not be judged by common sense. Wu Sihai swallowed his saliva and coughed. Since Ghost General gave you a Ghost King token, I wonder if you can let me take a look. You have to know that the Wu clan is famous for their eyesight. We can tell whether it's real or fake with just one look. Not only him, but even Bai Zizong and the rest felt a little embarrassed. Who knew what the Ghost King token was? No matter how good the old man's eyesight was, he couldn't recognize it, right? The few of them could already guess what he was planning. Old fox, I knew you would have your eyes on my token. You took the bait. Yu Qianqiu sneered in his heart. He scratched his head and said, I don't even know if I have it with me. Let me take a look first. He reached into his storage bag and searched for a while. After a while he said, Found it. A pitch-black token was raised in Yu Qianqiu's hand. There were some simple carvings around it, but in the middle was a pair of deep eyes. It was demonic and captivating. The few of them looked carefully and were immediately stunned. Their expressions gradually became sluggish. Their entire mind was filled with that pair of cold and demonic eyes. Following that, an awe-inspiring general wearing golden armor appeared in their minds and gradually matched the pair of eyes. The general's robe was fluttering behind him. He was holding a sword in his hand. He was staring at them indifferently, as if he was looking at a group of ants. Oh no, there's something strange about this token. Wu Sihai, who was in the middle stage of calamity passing, was shocked. He bit the tip of his tongue. The pain woke him up. As for Bai Zitsong and the other three, because their cultivation was not high, their minds were immersed in it, and could not extricate themselves. The former blocked in front of the token and shouted, "Wake up!" Bai Zitsong and the rest who were mesmerized by the token trembled. They woke up as if they were in a dream. Their faces were filled with disbelief. It really is the Ghost King's token. Wu Sihai turned around and asked, "Can I take a look?" "Old man, it's just a broken token. What's so special about it?" Yu Qianqiu generously gave it to him. "The Ghost King's token is a broken token?" Wu Sihai's face twitched. He took the token and examined it. He tried to avoid looking at the pair of eyes. After a long time he exhaled and praised, "Good stuff. This Ghost King's token is made of the rare nether iron. TSK. Normal ghost cultivators can't get their hands on this. It really belongs to the Ghost King." "What's nether iron?" Yu Qianqiu was stunned. It was his first time hearing about it. Wu Sihai held the token and explained, "Ghost cultivators and demon cultivators are different from us cultivators. They don't rely on absorbing spiritual energy to increase their cultivation. They rely on absorbing yin energy. Yin energy usually comes from underground caves. They are divided into 9 levels. The first level is the nether cave, the second level is the nether cave, and all the way up to the 9 nether cave. The higher the level of the cave, the stronger the yin energy, and the stronger the yin wind. The 9 nether cave is the highest level. Even ghost cultivators at the end of the Ghost King can't withstand it. They will be killed by the yin wind if they dare to enter. Under normal circumstances, ghost cultivators at the end of the Ghost King's cultivation can only stay in the 8 nether cave to absorb yin energy. As for the 9 nether cave, only the legendary ghost sage dares to enter. The ghost sage's cultivation is equivalent to our legendary soul-forming stage. This nether iron is a treasure that can only be found in caves that are level 8 and above. Chapter 211. Compared to the mystic gold sand I bought last time, which one is better? Yu Qianqiu asked. Mystic gold sand? Wu Sihai laughed. The two are not on the same level at all. Mystic gold sand can at most be used to refine treasures, while nether iron can be used to refine spiritual treasures. Which one do you think is better? Of course, no matter how good the item is, it needs the skill to refine it. This nether iron has the innate ability to absorb souls. The corpse sect of the demonic Tao has a magic weapon made of nether iron. They have captured many rogue cultivators and absorbed their souls. Those rogue cultivators are like walking corpses, which is why they are ranked 3rd in the demonic Tao. So that's how it is, Yu Qianqiu muttered. Then the next time I meet Ghost General, I will ask him to help me get more nether iron. Although his voice was low, they all looked at each other. It seemed that this guy's relationship with Ghost General was not ordinary. Wu Sihai coughed and said, Yu Qianqiu, can I discuss something with you? Here it comes. The old fox is finally showing his tail. Yu Qianqiu sneered in his heart, but nodded on the surface and said, Just say it, old master. Since both demons and ghosts in the demon region have to show some respect when they see this token, and it is useless to keep it with you, why don't you lend it to the 4 families first? We will return it to you after we find the old ancestor. We will definitely thank you after that. What do you think? Wu Sihai said a little unnaturally. After a long time, they finally got to the point. Bai Zitsong and the other 3 turned their heads to the side as if nothing had happened. In fact, if you paid attention, you could see that they were a little embarrassed. Old master, that's a good idea. Yu Qianqiu took the token from his hand and threw it directly into the storage bag. He smiled and said, It's not that I don't want to lend it to you, but this token is useful to me. But it is useless to you. Wu Sihai watched helplessly as the Ghost King token was taken away. He even had the urge to snatch it back. Suppressing his emotions, he frowned and asked, Why do you say that? When Meng Yin gave me the token, he told me again and again not to give it to anyone else. If the 4 great clans go to the Demon Ghost region and flash the Ghost King token, I believe it won't take long for Meng Yan to find out. Once he finds out that the token is in your hands, he believed that Meng Yan's hundreds of thousands of troops were not just for show. At that time, in a fit of rage, Meng Yan has many experts under him. If Old Master thinks that the 4 great families can fight against Ghost General, I can let you try. What I'm afraid of is that this token won't be of any help to you. It would be bad if you end up attracting even more trouble. That fellow Meng Yan's temper wasn't good. There was also the Demon King Aoli, who shared the same roots as him. Old Master, I advise you to give up on this idea. Yu Qianqiu shook his head and smiled. Wu Sihai was a little dumbfounded. He had calculated for a long time, and thought that he was close. Who knew that his dream would be destroyed by Yu Qianqiu? After a while, he pretended to be nonchalant and asked, "Who is the Demon King Aoli? One of the 10 great demon kings? Is his relationship with Ghost General good?" Yu Qianqiu nodded and said, "Yes. He is one of the 10 great demon kings. He is the lord of a territory with Ghost General. The 2 of them are like brothers. One is in charge of Yang, and the other is in charge of Yin. Ma Jiugu of supporting Immortal Island was defeated by him. Even Ma Jiugu of supporting Immortal Island, who is in the late tribulation passing stage, is no match for Demon King Aoli." Wu Sihai could no longer pretend, and his face twitched. It should be known that Ma Jiugu was the #1 expert, not only in supporting Immortal Island, but also in the entire Chinese cultivation world. Her Demon Slayer wand was rarely matched. Unexpectedly, she was defeated by a Demon King, who is also in the late tribulation passing stage. The 10 great demon kings of the Devil Domain were indeed worthy of their reputation. Wu Sihai sighed softly and looked a little dispirited. One Ghost General was already difficult to deal with. Now there was Demon King Aoli, and there were many Ghost King and Demon Kings. It seemed that even if he knew the whereabouts of the ancestor, it would be difficult to meet him again. Seeing him in a daze, Yu Qianqiu laughed inwardly, but he still put on a serious face and said, "Old Master, you don't need to be discouraged. If you really want to go, at worst I'll accompany your 4 great families to the demon realm after I finish my business." Wu Sihai's eyes lit up and said, "Are you serious?" "What do you mean by serious?" Yu Qianqiu sneered and pointed at Bai Zizong's group of 4. He said, "I only made this trip because of my 4 brothers. Do you think I have nothing better to do after eating my fill?" Bai Zizong and the other 3 were delighted. They exchanged glances and cupped their fists to thank him. Wu Sihai said happily, "What do you want to do? Our 4 families may not be comparable to supporting Immortal Island, but we have some ability. Do you need our help?" "Sure." Yu Qianqiu touched his nose and said seriously, "Using the 4 families is making a mountain out of a molehill. It's enough with your Wu family's help. Old Master, can you help me ask Yin Juixing of 100 Flower Palace where he got the 4 treasures of Xiao Shui?" Wu Sihai's smile froze on his face. After a while he said awkwardly, "It's not convenient for my Wu family to take action. Is there anything else that you need my Wu family's help with?" Yu Qianqiu waved his hand indifferently and said, "Forget it. I'll look for you when I have something else. Just don't shirk it again." I'll help as long as I can." Wu Sihai smiled awkwardly. He felt that something was wrong no matter how he thought about it. It felt like he was being schemed against by Yu Qianqiu. "Oh, then I hope that the next time I ask for your help will be within your scope." Yu Qianqiu's tone sounded like he didn't have any hope for the Wu family. The more they talked about it, the more embarrassed Wu Sihai felt. He immediately changed the topic and said, "Why do you want to know where the 4 treasures came from?" Yu Qianqiu squinted his eyes and didn't hide anything. He said in a deep voice, "There's a demon clan in the extreme north called the Snow Fox clan. Xiao Shui, who followed the divine craftsman in ancient times, was the first clan leader of the Snow Fox clan. The 4 treasures that the divine craftsman refined are the tokens of the Snow Fox clan's clan leader. I want to know how the treasures of the Snow Fox clan ended up in Yin Juixing's hands." "Ah, Xiao Shui is from the demon clan?" Wu Sihai was surprised. Bai Zizong and the other 3 looked at each other. Bai Zizong then asked, The extreme north should be out of the Huaxia Empire's territory. How do you know about it? I just heard about it. I was once entrusted by someone, and nearly forgot about it. I only recalled it last night, and came to ask you about it. Yu Qianqiu casually said a few words and cupped his hands. Let's not talk anymore. I will make a trip back to the 100 Flowers Valley first. I will come back to discuss with the 4 major clans about the trip to the demon region. Wait. I have something to tell you. Wu Sihai stopped Jiang Yi and hesitated for a moment before speaking. My Wu clan already knows about the Yu clan's matter in Swallow Zicheng. I believe the other factions will know soon too. I believe the supporting Immortal Island won't be an exception. There's also on Kwangsung. I reckon they won't let you off so easily. You better be careful. Chapter 212. There was a short moment of silence in the secret room. Apart from the Wu clan's grandfather-grandson duo, and Yu Qianqiu, Bai Zizong, and the others were confused, and didn't know what kind of riddle they were playing. Yu Qianqiu's thoughts were spinning rapidly. Even the Wu clan knew about his background, and the supporting Immortal Island naturally wouldn't be able to hide it from them. He sneered and said, that Lu Chongqing was courting death. He actually dared to extend his claws to my clansmen in the secular world. If I don't kill him, should I let him off? If it's a blessing, it won't be a calamity. And if it's a calamity, it can't be avoided. I hope that Ong Kwangsung knows his place, and doesn't provoke me again. If he angers me, I will remove Ong Kwangsung's name from the cultivation world. His words contained traces of chilling intent, and everyone quivered. Bai Zizong, Tan Fei, and Jingzhou looked at one another in dismay. Ong Kwangsung's patriarch Lu Chongqing was actually killed by him. They sighed silently, and weren't worried about Yu Qianqiu. Instead, they were worried for Ong Kwangsung. Ong Kwangsung's patriarch was killed, and he definitely wouldn't let Yu Qianqiu off. However, this fellow's background was truly unfathomable. Could Ong Kwangsung win against him? My Wu clan will send a few people to escort you to the 100 Flower Palace. Wu Sihai frowned and said. He was worried that if something happened to Yu Qianqiu, his 4 major clans' trip to the Demon Ghost region would be ruined. Yu Qianqiu waved his hand and said, no need. Ong Kwangsung can't do anything to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to stay in the cultivation world. Seeing that he was stubborn, they didn't say anything else, and walked out of the secret room. When they walked to the entrance of the main hall, a Wu clan's disciple suddenly ran over and reported, Clan head, Elder Dongfang Chang, AO of Supporting Immortal Island, wants us to pass a message to Supporting Immortal Island's disciple Yu Qianqiu, asking him to return to Supporting Immortal Island's shop. Got it. Wu Sihai waved his hand, and the disciple retreated. After confirming that Yu Qianqiu wanted to go back immediately, he cast a spell to the guards on the nearby tower, asking Wu Liqing and the other 3 to lead Yu Qianqiu and fly out on their flying swords. When the 5 of them arrived at Supporting Immortal Island's shop, Wan Yuan was waiting at the entrance, and he immediately brought them to the back of the shop. Dongfang Chang, AO was standing in the courtyard with his hands behind his back, and there were 2 other elders who came with him on both sides. Yu Qianqiu quickly bowed to the 3 of them, and Bai Zizong and the other 3 bowed in turn and said, the 4 major clans Bai Zizong, Tan Fei, Jingzhou, and Wu Liqing greet the 3 seniors. The elders on both sides held the armrests of the 4 of them, indicating that they didn't need to be overly courteous. At this moment, Dongfang Chang, AO turned around and looked at Yu Qianqiu, and he said in a deep voice, Yu Qianqiu, why do you have trouble wherever you go? The moment you arrived at the 100 Flowers Valley, you beat up sect leader Ong Kwangsung's grandson, and when you arrived at Hat Island, you beat up the Luo sect leader's son. Do you think that you haven't caused enough trouble for Supporting Immortal Island? Elder Dongfang, I was forced to do this. These 2 people really deserved a beating, and they were the ones who started it both times. I was just defending myself, otherwise, I would have lost face for Supporting Immortal Island. Yu Qianqiu said with a little grievance. Bai Zizong and the other 3 were stunned. How is this still the arrogant Yu Qianqiu? Wan Yuan didn't say a word. The other 2 elders looked at each other, and their lips curled into a smile. They were actually very satisfied with Yu Qianqiu's way of doing things. During this period of time, the whole cultivation world was talking about how this disciple of supporting Immortal Island was doing, beating up this sect leader's son, and then beating up that sect leader's son. Good. He really made supporting Immortal Island proud. Humph. I won't talk about the past. Tell me honestly, did you get into trouble again? Dongfang Chang Ao stared at him and asked. Yu Qianqiu scratched his head and said, No. I have been staying in the Wu clan, and apart from beating up that Luo Xiaohan, I didn't do anything else. Then why did Ong Kwangsung's old ancestor Qing Nu personally come to supporting Immortal Island to look for you? And even made the sect leader send a message to bring you back to supporting Immortal Island immediately? Dongfang Chang'ao shouted. It was exposed. By Zizong, and the other three secretly exchanged glances. Yu Qianqiu was stunned, and he said, Ong Kwangsung's old ancestor Qing Nu? I don't even know him. Why is he looking for me? He thought to himself, I have never heard of this person in Ong Kwangsung. Am I asking you, or are you asking me? Dongfang Chang Ao shouted again. Yu Qianqiu said with a bitter face, Elder Dongfang, I am innocent. These few days, I have been following the 4 major clan's successors closely, and I didn't do anything. If you don't believe me, you can ask them. Bai Zizong and the other 3 nodded, and they immediately cupped their fists in unison and said, Elder Dongfang, the 4 of us can testify for Brother Yu. These few days, he really didn't do anything out of line. The successors of the 4 major clans still had some weight. Dongfang Chang'ao looked at them, stood there for a moment, and said in a deep voice, Follow me back to supporting Immortal Island first. We can talk about anything else when we get back. An elder at the side took out a flying artifact that looked like a small boat, and Yu Qianqiu obediently jumped onto it under everyone's gaze. After Dongfang Chang'ao and the other 2 got on the boat, the small boat turned into a stream of light and flew away, leaving the people in the courtyard to send them off. Riding the wind, breaking through the clouds, they flew across the sky. Yu Qianqiu sat alone at the end, thinking about how to explain when he got back. Ong Kwangsung's old ancestor Qing Nu came to supporting Immortal Island. Needless to say, Lu Chongqing's matter was exposed. Sigh. Looks like the matter of finding Yan Zhuixing will have to be postponed. When they returned to supporting Immortal Island, the small boat directly landed in front of Penglai Pavilion, and they got off. Dongfang Chang Ao led him upstairs, and the other 2 didn't follow. They didn't go to the sect master's room, but to a large room that was used to receive guests. As soon as they entered, Yu Qianqiu realized that the atmosphere inside was a little strange, and he secretly thought that something was wrong. After Dongfang Chang Ao reported to the sect master, he also bowed to everyone. When he retreated to the side, the room was full of familiar people, including Master Guan Weiwu and Ferdinand. The 2 of them looked at him with a strange expression, but he didn't see a tall, white-haired old man in a green robe. He was standing beside sect master Feng Xiangtian, sizing him up. He must be Ong Kwangsung's old ancestor Qing Nu. Feng Xiangtian frowned and said, Yu Qianqiu, do you know your mistake? I know my mistake. Yu Qianqiu hurriedly bowed. Everyone in the room was stunned, but they heard him say, Disciple shouldn't have caused trouble outside, and brought trouble to the sect. Sect master, please give Disciple another chance. Disciple will definitely change for the better. So, did you really kill Ong Kwangsung's sect master Lu Chongqing? Feng Xiangtian said in a deep voice. Dongfang Chang'ao was shocked. He suspected that Yu Qianqiu had caused trouble again, but he didn't expect that he killed Ong Kwangsung's sect master. How was that possible? I killed Ong Kwangsung's sect master? Yu Qianqiu was stunned, and he said after a long time, Sect master. Did I hear it wrong? Did you say that I killed Ong Kwangsung's sect master? Isn't that so? Feng Xiangtian scoffed. The matter has been investigated clearly, and you still want to quibble? Sect master, you must be mistaken. How could I kill Ong Kwangsung's sect master? Yu Qianqiu argued. Chapter 213. Feng Xiangtian said in a deep voice. Looks like you're going to resist till the end and refuse to admit it. Yu Qianqiu stood there with a wronged look, and didn't say a word. It was as if he didn't do it. How could he admit it? You were originally a disciple of Ong Kuang-sung. Why did you join Fuxian Island? Speak. What are your intentions? Feng Xiangtian shouted. Although he said that, he couldn't bear it in his heart. Such a rare and good seedling was going to be destroyed here. Damn it! I'm exposed. Yu Qianqiu didn't reply to him. Instead, he turned around and bowed deeply to Guan Weiwu. With a distressed expression he said, "This disciple was originally a commoner in the mortal world. My family was quite wealthy, and I originally wanted to live a carefree life. Fortunately, my ancestors saved Ong Kuang-sung's sect master Lu Chongqing. In order to repay the kindness, Lu Chongqing brought me to Ong Kuang-sung to cultivate, even though I didn't have a spiritual root to cultivate. Then, I became master and disciple with sect master Hao Sansi. Under the encouragement of my master, this disciple concentrated on training day and night, not daring to slack off for even a day. Perhaps it was heaven rewarding the diligent. I was a disciple of the Azure Light sect who had no spiritual roots, and was humiliated by my fellow disciples. One day, I was enlightened and stepped into the refining chi stage. This should have been a happy event. But who would have thought that my master would warn me not to reveal a bit of my cultivation in front of others? At that time, this disciple didn't understand. Later, because my master was attacked and died, I was so angry that I exchanged a palm strike with the head's grandson Lu Zhengguang, and revealed my cultivation. Afterwards, I understood why my master repeatedly warned me not to reveal my cultivation. Yu Qianqiu looked at everyone and bowed to Guan Weiwu again. Sect Master. Lu Chongqing kept sending elders to ask me to reveal my cultivation secrets. But how could I have any cultivation secrets? I only know how to make up for my lack of cultivation with diligence. Because of this, I was demoted to a spirit stone mine to do hard labor. It was only a day after my master passed away. They couldn't wait any longer. So be it if you have to do hard labor. But the sect leader didn't want to let me go. He sent Elder Lu Wanqian to threaten and bribe me. I almost died in his hands several times. But I didn't know any cultivation secrets. How could I tell him? Then one day, the Magic Illusion Palace attacked the Spirit Stone Mine. The dignified elder of the Ong Kuang-sung, Lu Wanwan, used me as a shield in order to escape. Fortunately, this disciple was lucky enough to survive. Looking at the whole Spirit Stone Mine, I was disheartened and didn't think about cultivation anymore. So I left quietly, thinking that it was just a nightmare, and that I never came to Ong Kuang-sung. Everyone from the supporting Immortals Island sighed. It turned out that Yu Qianqiu had such a miserable experience. Imagine a disciple without spiritual roots suddenly being able to cultivate. Some sects would indeed use all kinds of means. Who would have thought that Yu Qianqiu was an exception with extraordinary talent? However, a dignified righteous sect actually did such a thing to their own disciple. Anyone would be disappointed, and leave Ong Kuang-sung just like that. Everyone glanced at the green-robed elder, and couldn't help but reveal a trace of disdain. When Qing Niu, who was beside Feng Xiangtian, heard Yu Qianqiu's words, a few of his white beards were already broken. He cupped his hands at everyone and sighed. I won't hide my shame. I also heard about this matter after the incident. It was indeed those evil disciples who were devoid of conscience, and did the wrong thing first. Sigh. Let's not talk about the sect's misfortune. How shameful. These words undoubtedly proved that Yu Qianqiu's words were true, and everyone felt even more sympathy for Yu Qianqiu from the bottom of their hearts. Especially the Cultivation Pavilion's principal elder, O Sihai. He thought to himself, Ong Kuang-sung didn't want such an outstanding disciple. Now that he has entered my supporting Immortals Island, he is my supporting Immortals Island's disciple. How dare you, Emir Ong Kuang-sung, come to my supporting Immortals Island to ask for him? This is outrageous. He had been thinking about how to get Yu Qianqiu into his cultivation pavilion. Brother Qing, don't blame yourself. Feng Xiangtian calmly comforted him. He faced Yu Qianqiu and said in a deep voice, where did you get the supporting Immortals token from back then? Yu Qianqiu still didn't answer him directly. Instead, he bowed to Guan Weiwu, causing everyone to frown. He was clearly not putting the sect master in his eyes. Feng Xiangtian was expressionless. The former bowed and said, "After leaving on Kwangsung, I wandered around. Once, I met an injured qi refinement stage cultivator who was on the verge of death. Unfortunately, I couldn't save him no matter how hard I tried. Before he died, he said that he was originally a disciple expelled by supporting Immortals Island. His name was Ji Wushuang. He gave me a token to repay my kindness and said that I could join supporting Immortals Island with this token. I originally gave up on the idea of cultivating, but when I heard that it was the world's largest sect, I couldn't help but want to give it a try. In the end, I became a disciple of supporting Immortals Island." Ji Wushuang? Feng Xiangtian frowned. He looked around and asked, "Is there a disciple called Ji Wushuang among the expelled disciples?" Osihai suddenly sighed and said, "Sect Master, Yu Qianqiu is right. There was a disciple who was expelled from the sect called Ji Wushuang. He was a disciple of the Cultivation Pavilion. He was the grandson of the late Elder Ji. His father died in battle for supporting Immortals Island. I didn't expect." "Sigh. Elder Ji's grandson? 3 generations of his grandfather and grandson are all dead." Feng Xiangtian paused. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Their expressions were a bit sad. The disciples who were expelled from the sect didn't have a good ending. They didn't think that even the grandson of a dignified elder of the Cultivation Pavilion would end up like this. The elders who were able to hold the Immortal Supporting Medallion were all senior elders. Feng Xiangtian came back to his senses and shouted, "Why did you kill Sect Master Ong Kwangsung?" "I didn't kill him." Yu Qianqiu kept staring at Guan Weiwu, who felt uncomfortable under his gaze. "You won't shed a tear until you see the coffin." Feng Xiangtian snorted. At first he wanted to protect Guan Weiwu. After all, talents were rare. However, Guan Weiwu had repeatedly looked down on him, and even dared to deceive him. How could he put his face as the sect master? He was simply courting death. Feng Xiangtian shouted towards the outside, "Bring him in." 2 disciples pushed a person in. As soon as the person came in, he immediately knelt down and kowtowed to everyone. Trembling, he said, "Great Immortals, great Immortals." Yu Qianqiu didn't even look at that person. He only stared at his master Guan Weiwu. Feng Xiangtian pointed at Yu Qianqiu and shouted to that person, "Come forward. See if he is the person who released those flying swords that night." "Yes, yes, yes." That person scrambled over. When he looked back, he immediately cried out in joy, "Eldest young master." Then, he nodded to Feng Xiangtian and said, "That night, it was my eldest young master who released those flying swords and fought with the evil person who destroyed my Yu clan." Yu Qianqiu was slightly stunned. He looked down and saw that the person looked familiar, but he couldn't remember his name. He then looked at the clothes he was wearing. It was the uniform of the Yu residence's servants. He couldn't help but shake his head with a bitter smile. What else could he say? Feng Xiangtian said with an expressionless face, "Yu Qianqiu, what else do you have to say?" Yu Qianqiu didn't answer. He looked at Guan Weiwu and said with a faint smile, "Master, could it be that you have nothing to say?" When he said that, his heart turned cold. He said those words to Guan Weiwu because he wanted to tell Guan Weiwu about his difficulties and hoped that master could understand. But as his master, Guan Weiwu actually didn't say a word for him. He didn't have any intention of protecting him. Could it be that the relationship between the two of them was so bad in the past? Since things had come to this, was there a need to stay on Fuxian Island? The smile on Yu Qianqiu's face gradually faded. He slowly closed his eyes. Seeing his disciple like this, a look of pain flashed across Guan Weiwu's face. It wasn't that he didn't want to speak for his disciple. In fact, after he knew about this matter, he immediately went to find his senior brother, hoping that his senior brother would show mercy. But the latter immediately scolded him, saying that this matter involved other sects, and whether it was fair or not was related to the reputation of Fuxian Island. He sternly warned him that as Yu Qianqiu's master, he shouldn't intervene in this matter. He knew how to deal with it. Ferdinand was also warned. Yu Qianqiu suddenly opened his eyes. His face was full of coldness. Suddenly, he knelt down in front of Guan Weiwu and kowtowed 3 times in a row. After standing up, He brushed the hem of his gown with one hand and pulled it with both hands. With a hiss sound, the front hem of the gown was torn off on the spot. He pinched it with one hand and slowly raised it towards everyone. Everyone was stunned. They didn't know what he meant. He raised the torn hem of the gown and shouted in a deep voice, "Master, once this gown is torn, you and I are no longer friends. We don't owe each other anything. From now on Yu Qianqiu, have nothing to do with Fuxian Island. From now on, Yu Qianqiu, am free to fly in the sky and fish in the sea. No one can control me, Yu Qianqiu." Chapter 214. How dare you? Osihai shouted. The good seedling that he coveted for a long time actually said such disgraceful words. He really didn't want to stay on supporting Xian Island anymore. Feng Xiangtian's face turned frighteningly gloomy. Since the establishment of supporting Xian Island, it had always been the sects that expelled their disciples. When had there ever been a case of a disciple abandoning the sect? Guan Weiwu and Ferdinand were already stunned. The group of elders was a little dumbfounded. The two disciples who had just escorted the person and looked at each other. Qingnu was also a little stunned. This Yu Qianqiu was really courageous to publicly break off relations with the world's #1 sect, supporting Xian Island. In the entire cultivation world, how many people would dare to do such a thing? What a pity. Such a person would probably not be able to escape today. Yu Qianqiu, it's not too late to take back what you said just now. Otherwise you will be in big trouble. Osihai warned sternly again. He really didn't want Yu Qianqiu to be destroyed just like this. In fact, he was already trying his best to protect Yu Qianqiu. Feng Xiangtian's face was gloomy. He raised his hand and pressed down on Osihai, signaling him to stop talking. However, he didn't know that Yu Qianqiu had already made up his mind. His initial respectful look was already gone. He straightened his back and shook his head indifferently. Spilled water can't be retrieved. The words that Yu Qianqiu said are like spilled water. There's no way to take them back. Spilled water can't be retrieved. Feng Xiangtian looked around and sneered. I announce that from today onwards, Yu Qianqiu will be expelled from supporting Xian Island. His life or death has nothing to do with supporting Xian Island anymore. Foreign Affairs Palace immediately spread the news to the entire cultivation world. He turned around and said to Qingnu beside him, Brother Qing, I'm sorry. From today onwards, the grudge between you, Ongquangsung, and the Luo sect has nothing to do with Fuxian Island. We won't interfere in this matter anymore. This meant that the supporting Immortal Island had completely abandoned Yu Qianqiu. From now on, Yu Qianqiu would have to bear all the troubles he caused by himself. The supporting Immortal Island would never stand up for him again. How could a core formation disciple survive against the Deluo sect and Ongquangsung? This was a disguised form of punishment. Ferdinand shook his head and sighed, while Guan Weiwu's face turned pale. This, Qingnu also didn't come back to her senses for a while. How did things turn out like this in the blink of an eye? He had always guessed that Lu Chongqing's death had something to do with supporting Immortal Island. Otherwise, where did those men in black come from? This matter had always troubled the upper echelons of Ongquangsung. They couldn't afford to offend them, but they had to deal with it. However, from what happened just now, if supporting Immortal Island wasn't deliberately putting on a show, then this matter really had nothing to do with supporting Immortal Island. Qingnu thought about it again and again. She stared at Yu Qianqiu and said in a deep voice, Yu Qianqiu, is my Ongquangsung sect's treasure, the Green Destiny Sword, in your hands? If it's in your hands, you should return it to me. Humph. Return what? It was destroyed along with that broken horsetail whisk. Yu Qianqiu sneered and said, Even if the two treasures weren't destroyed, do you think I would return them to you? The dignified sect leader Ongquangsung actually tried to kill my family members in the secular world. Moreover, they were the descendants of his savior. Only you people would do such a thing. Now you still have the cheek to ask me for the Green Destiny Sword? Is there something wrong with your brain? Everyone was speechless. This Yu Qianqiu didn't even care about old ancestor Qingnu, who was famous in the cultivation world. He was really arrogant. It seemed like it wasn't strange that he could continuously beat people up. What? The green destiny sword was destroyed? Qing Nu's expression was a little twitching. She had seen the horsetail whisk that was destroyed, so she was afraid that he was telling the truth. Suppressing the anger in her heart, Qing Nu said in a deep voice, I Kwang-sung, let you down first. Logically, I shouldn't pursue this matter. However, you killed my Kwang-sung sect leader. Whether you are willing or not, I will imprison you in Kwang-sung for 100 years. Also, who are those black-clothed people? You want to imprison me for 100 years? Dream on. Yu Qianqiu said in disdain. Qing Nu hadn't been humiliated like this for many years. She immediately had the intention to fight. Yu Qianqiu waved his hand at her and smiled. Wait. If he had anything to ask or to fight, he would have to leave the supporting Immortal Island first. We aren't people of supporting Immortal Island. Fighting in their territory is not giving them face. All right. As you wish. Qing Nu was really angry. This kid was too arrogant. If she didn't teach him a lesson, she would be letting herself down. She immediately cupped her fists at Feng Xiangtian and said, Sect Leader Feng, please open the island's protective array and let us out. Feng Xiangtian nodded and flicked a white light out of the window. That white light flew into the sky. Old man, come out and reason with me. Yu Qianqiu shouted at Qing Nu. He jumped out of the window and did a somersault in the air. The sword on his back was unsheathed and drew a semicircle, carrying him into the sky. Sect Leader Feng, sorry to disturb you. Qing Nu cupped her fists and flew out of the window. However, with her cultivation at the end of the tribulation stage, she naturally didn't need to play such low-level tricks, like sword kinesis. She turned into a shadow and chased after Yu Qianqiu, who had become a black dot in the sky. Let's go and take a look. After getting Feng Xiangtian's approval, several figures flew out of the window. Swoosh. Hearing the whistling sound coming from below, Yu Qianqiu looked down and was speechless. This tribulation stage expert is really an expert. Flying in the air is faster than me flying on my sword. When he looked back and saw a white cloud above him, he immediately raised his cultivation to the limit and flew into it. Want to run? Qing Nu, who was flying over, sneered in his heart when he saw the situation above him. His silhouette could still be seen, but as he smiled, he suddenly vanished into thin air. He had used teleportation, and when he reappeared, he was already at the edge of the white cloud high up in the sky. Yu Qianqiu had just managed to jump in before him. When Qing Nu saw him hiding inside, she did not chase after him. Instead, she flew directly to the top of the cloud. Looking around, this cloud was only 100 meters in radius. Immediately, she released a divine sense to scan the entire cloud. After a while, Qing Nu's face changed. Her divine sense went back and forth several times, but she didn't find the person inside. How could this be? With his cultivation, as long as his body moved slightly, it was impossible that her divine sense couldn't find him. At this time, Osihai and Dongfang Chang, Ao also quickly came to his side and floated together in the air. Seeing his bad expression, Osihai said, Senior Qing, what's wrong? That guy is gone. Qing Nu said with a strange expression. The people who came later looked at each other. How could this be? With Qing Nu's cultivation at the end of the tribulation stage, how could Yu Qianqiu escape? Osihai was stunned and said, Impossible. With Yu Qianqiu's cultivation, how could he escape from Senior's hands? Even I don't think I can do it. No, I clearly saw him come in, and he should still be inside. How could I not find him? This guy is a little strange. After Qing Nu finished speaking, her divine sense swept back and forth again. Osihai and the others also released their divine sense to check, but they still found nothing. I don't believe that this guy can escape under my eyes. You guys back off. After Qing Nu let them back a little, a long sword suddenly appeared in her hand. She raised it towards the sky and shouted, Green Sky Sword Art. The long sword in her hand emitted a green sword shadow that was nearly 100 meters long. It pierced the sky and suddenly radiated an imposing aura that spread out, causing the clothes of the people not far away to flutter. They exchanged glances. The old guy lost his face, got angry, and wanted to kill. The huge sword in Qing Nu's hand suddenly moved. It looked huge, but it was very dexterous in her hand. Who? The huge sword directly stirred the clouds. As her hand moved faster and faster, the whole white cloud was stirred up like a tornado and gradually dissipated in the air, until all the white clouds disappeared without a trace. Qing Nu put away the sword in her hand and threw it back into the storage bag. But in front of her, there was no one. Chapter 215. They looked around, but it was obvious that Yu Qianqiu had run away. A core formation realm disciple had escaped from a cultivator in the final stage of the tribulation passing stage. He had disappeared without a trace, and it was inexplicable. Qing Nu, who was floating in the air, had an ugly expression. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that this was her humiliation. Did Yu Qianqiu leave supporting Immortal Island just like that? Osihai groaned in pain from the bottom of his heart. He was really optimistic about Yu Qianqiu's potential. Especially everything that had happened now. It made him sigh endlessly. At such a young age, Yu Qianqiu already had such means. However, everything was impossible now. Yu Qianqiu had really left. They flew to Qing Nu's side. And Osihai asked superfluously, "Senior, did Yu Qianqiu run away?" Qing Nu looked around with a gloomy expression. There were only a few clouds in the blue sky, and below them was a vast sea. With Yu Qianqiu's cultivation, where could he run to? Could it be? He stared at supporting Immortal Island, which was shrouded in mist. Osihai understood what he meant, and he said in astonishment, "Senior, do you suspect that he went back to supporting Immortal Island? That's impossible. When we just came out, the island's protective formation sealed supporting Immortal Island again. He can't go back. Why don't Senior go back to supporting Immortal Island to look for him?" Qing Nu did have that thought. But even if Yu Qianqiu went back to hide, what right did he have to search supporting Immortal Island? He pondered for a moment, shook his head and said, "There's no need. There's still a long way to go. I don't believe that this brat will never show himself in the cultivation world. Please bid farewell to sect leader Feng on my behalf. I won't go down anymore." With that said, he flew away without looking back, disappearing into the distance in the blink of an eye. The few of them sent him off with their gazes before exchanging glances. All of them shook their heads and smiled bitterly. They then sized up the surroundings under the clear sky and bright sun. Such a bright and clear world was disturbed by Yu Qianqiu like this, and it seemed rather strange. "Let's go back." Osihai sighed as the few of them dived towards Fuxian Island. After returning to Penglai Pavilion, Osihai told Feng Xiangtian and others in detail what happened just now. Everyone was stunned and surprised. Qing Nu, who had the cultivation of the final phase of nature's test, didn't catch Yu Qianqiu and let him run away? Guan Weiwu and Ferdinand looked at each other and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. In the main hall of the Wanfen Garden, Ma Jugu, who was holding a walking stick, was standing in the middle of the hall with Lan Bingshu as support. She was looking at Hibiscus, who was sitting motionlessly on a chair. Tears were silently rolling down Hibiscus's beautiful face. Obviously, she was restrained. Lan Bingxue looked at the face that was even more beautiful than hers, and her expression was indescribable. After the banquet was over, Ferdinand angrily returned and greeted Ma Jugu. "Jugu, there was quite a commotion above supporting Immortal Island just now. What? Could it be that Qing Nu, that old fellow, had made a move on Yu Qianqiu? What happened?" Ma Jugu turned around and asked. Hibiscus, who couldn't move, looked at her father anxiously. "Yu Qianqiu, hey, that brat was a bit impulsive. At first, the sect leader didn't plan to do anything to him. He just wanted to put on a show in front of Qing Nu, who knew that when he saw that his master didn't say anything to help him, he actually cut ties with Guan Weiwu in front of everyone. Their master-disciple relationship ended there. The sect leader was also angry and expelled him from the supporting Immortal Island in public. It's funny that Qing Nu chased Yu Qianqiu to the outside of the supporting Immortal Island. In the end, with Qing Nu's cultivation of the final phase of nature's test, she couldn't catch Yu Qianqiu and let him escape. Heh, I really don't know how that brat has such ability. It's really incredible." Ferdinand shook his head and smiled bitterly. "That old fellow Qing Nu didn't catch Yu Qianqiu?" Ma Jugu was stunned. Lan Bingxue was also shocked. Hearing this, Hibiscus, who had tears in her eyes, immediately relaxed. Her large eyes flickered. Others might not know, but she knew that Yu Qianqiu had the ability to appear and disappear unpredictably. It was normal that others couldn't catch him. He escaped, but from now on, he is no longer a disciple of Supporting Immortal Island. Without the protection of Supporting Immortal Island, the Luo sect and Ong Kwangsung will definitely not let him go. Sai, Jugu, why didn't you come forward to persuade the sect leader? I believe that if you had come forward, this matter wouldn't have escalated to this point, Ferdinand asked. I'm old and a little muddle-headed. I never interfere with the decisions of the Supporting Immortal Island. Ma Jugu turned around and stared at Hibiscus and asked, I heard that your girl's face was cured by Yu Qianqiu. Yes, Ferdinand nodded and said, this disciple will not hide it from you. Yu Qianqiu went to the demon domain and got a lot of spirit grasses. He secretly hid them and didn't hand them over. Instead, he secretly refined a furnace of Rui Dan for Ronger. Just like that, Ronger's face was cured. Rui pill. Even Ma Jugu couldn't help but exclaim, is it the legendary Rui pill that can keep youthful, detoxify, nourish one's face, and make one immune to hundreds of poisons? According to Yu Qianqiu, it should be. You didn't see the appearance of the Rui pill at that time. Not only did it give off a pill halo, but it also emitted 7 colored rays of light. It was the first time in my life that I saw such a pill. It was an eye-opener. Ferdinand sighed. Hearing this, Lan Bingxue looked at Hibiscus with an envious expression. Which woman didn't want to stay youthful? Your girl is so lucky. Sigh. If I had encountered such a pill in the past, I wouldn't have gotten the name Ma Jugu. Last Lan, let's go. Let's not look at it, lest we get envious. Let's go. Let's go. Ma Jugu shook her head and sighed. She slowly walked out with Lan Bingxue's help. When Yu Qianqiu was being chased by Qing Nu and was about to enter the cloud, he was scared out of his wits when he looked back. The other party actually teleported in front of him. As soon as he entered the cloud, he immediately flashed back to Utopia without saying anything. He didn't dare to be long-winded. A cultivator at the final stage of the Crossing Calamity stage was simply too terrifying for him. The reason why he disappeared into the cloud was that he didn't want to expose the secret that he could disappear into thin air. Who knew that he would almost be killed? After appearing in by Suzhen's room in the Misty Palace, he finally felt safe. He breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. Bai Suzhen suddenly looked back. Seeing him like this, she walked up to him and asked with concern, What's wrong? Damn it. I'm so unlucky today. I was just expelled from the Supporting Immortals Island, and now I'm being chased by a cultivator at the final stage of the Crossing Calamity stage, by Ong Kwangsung. Just a little bit more. If he had killed me before I could react, I might not have been able to come back. I was so scared, Yu Qianqiu said in a relaxed manner after the fright. You were expelled from the Supporting Immortals Island? Why would a cultivator from Ong Kwangsung want to kill you? Is it because you helped me investigate the 4 treasures? Bai Suzhen grabbed his arm, especially when she saw the long hem of his robe. He was naked behind his buttocks, and his legs were exposed in front. Who knew what kind of danger he had encountered? Yu Qianqiu gently pressed her hand and said with a smile, Sister, don't think too much. It's not your fault. It's my fault. Bai Suzhen, on the other hand, didn't think so. She only thought that he was comforting her. She bit her lips and said, I can take my time with my matters. You must pay attention to your safety outside. In her heart, there was nothing more important than Yu Qianqiu's safety. Yu Qianqiu shook his head and smiled bitterly. I'm afraid it's too late now. I believe it won't take long for the whole cultivation world to know that I was expelled from the Supporting Immortals Island. At that time, I'm afraid that the Daluo sect and Ong Kwangsung will cast their net to find me. It's not convenient for me to show myself in public for a while. Then you shouldn't go out during this period of time. Bai Suzhen's peerless features gently lifted as she looked at him worriedly. Yu Qianqiu was a little dazed. He had the urge to hug and kiss her. Just when he was thinking about it, his divine sense suddenly fluctuated. Someone was looking for him. Yu Qianqiu was surprised and said, It's news from the Pillar of General's office. Could it be that there's an improvement in the mission that I gave to little Tian? Sister, I have something to do. I'll go out for a while. As soon as he finished speaking, he took off his long robe and put it on. Then he disappeared without a trace. Bai Suzhen bent down to pick up the torn clothes on the ground and held them in her hands. Her pretty face was filled with worry. Chapter 216. The rear garden of the National Pillars Mansion had become a forbidden area. Actually, there was nothing they could do about it. At this time, there were many people in the rear garden. There were adults and children, and all of them were dressed shabbily. None of them were presentable, and they all looked at the surrounding courtyard with fear. No one dared to make a sound, and there were probably more than 100 people. These people were brought here by Ling Feng and the others while they were cultivating in the capital. Nowadays, the three of them could be said to be living a comfortable life. They cultivated in peace, and with the nourishment of spirit stones and spirit pills, their cultivation was rising rapidly. In the past, it was something they didn't even dare to think about. They didn't have to worry about food and drink, and there was no one to restrict them. They also had the money Shi Xiaotian gave them to spend. Although they couldn't normally appear in the general's mansion, they would climb over the wall and stroll around the capital when they were free. The three of them did not dare to neglect the task that Yu Qianqiu had entrusted them with. The purpose of their stroll was to find people with spirit roots for cultivation. Shi Xiaotian looked at the group of people in the rear garden and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What kind of people did Ling Feng and the others bring here? Most of them looked like beggars, or they looked like they were in dire straits. Some of them had eaten their fill and were squatting in the shade of a tree, scratching lice. On the wall of the small courtyard, Ling Feng and the others sat side by side, while Shi Xiaotian stood on it. The four of them looked at the group of people in the garden. Shi Xiaotian smiled bitterly and said, Ling Feng, did you bring all the beggars in the capital here? Beizi looked up at him and smiled. If the three of us really brought all the beggars in the capital here, even 10 of your general's mansions wouldn't be able to accommodate them, let alone this garden. We also want to bring some decent people for boss, but boss already told us to keep a low profile. If we brought so many ordinary people here, I'm afraid that the government would have long been alerted and people would have noticed. Look at these beggars and vagrants, they don't have families, and they're all alone. Without them, no one in the capital would know. Shi Xiaotian waved his finger and said, But look, why did you bring even old men here? What does boss want them for? That's good. At least they won't starve to death on the streets. It was rare for Xianping to say such a long sentence. Ling Feng nodded and said, Boss said that as long as they don't belong to any sect and have spiritual roots, regardless of age, the more the better. Sigh. Let's wait for the boss to get here first. Shi Xiaotian shook his head and raised a small silver ball in his hand. He asked doubtfully, I just used my divine sense to check inside and found that it's empty. Can this really summon boss? It should be possible. Otherwise, boss wouldn't have given this to us for no reason. Ling Feng said. Shi Xiaotian looked at the silver ball in his hand and smiled bitterly. I hope boss can take them away as soon as possible. Otherwise, there will be hundreds of people eating every day. What? Your Grand General's residence can't even support 100 people? Yu Qianqiu suddenly appeared on top of the wall and laughed. Boss! The few of them turned around and exclaimed in surprise. After Shi Xiaotian's joy, he smiled awkwardly and said, Boss, that's not what I meant. It's just that my father is about to return to the imperial court. I'm afraid it will arouse my father's suspicion. I don't know how to explain it to him. Yu Qianqiu looked at the hundreds of people and nodded slightly. They were all people with spiritual roots. He didn't expect Ling Feng and the other two to be able to gather so many people in such a short period of time. However, he was stunned when he saw a few old people among them. Let's talk inside. Yu Qianqiu directly entered the courtyard from the top of the wall. After the four of them entered the main hall, Yu Qianqiu sat on a chair in the main hall and asked curiously, The pillar of the State General has been fighting at the borders for many years. Why is he suddenly returning to the imperial court? Shi Xiaotian smiled and said, It's nothing. The Pingwa general has two beautiful daughters. The eldest is going to marry the current crown prince, and the second is going to marry the eldest son of the Wagwa general. My father, the Pingwa general, and the Wagwa general are the three great generals of the empire. Maybe it's because of this that my father has to come personally to congratulate them. An important official with an important official, and an important official with the crown prince? Yu Qianqiu's brows twitched. He seemed to feel that something wasn't right. He frowned and said, Xiaotian, among the three great generals of the empire, who has the greatest military power? It's not a matter of who has the greatest military power. The three great generals control 6 million soldiers and horses, and there isn't much of a difference in power. If we're talking about military power, I'm afraid it's still my father, Shi Xiaotian said with a hint of pride. Why? Yu Qianqiu asked. Shi Xiaotian raised his hand and gestured. The south of the Huaxia Empire is a barren land that is rarely visited by humans. In the words of our cultivation world, it's called the demonic domain. The east side, Linhai, has always been guarded by the troops of the Wagwa general. The Pingwa general's troops are mainly guarding the capital region, as well as the northern border. My father, the pillar of the state general, is guarding the west. The east side, Linhai, has no neighbors. The south is barren, and although it's dangerous, there are no wars. Although there's a big country in the north, they're located in a bitter cold land. In terms of strength, they can't compare to our empire. Only the west that my father guards is not only vast, but it's also connected to the 6 countries. Ever since our empire was founded, the 6 countries have never stopped having conflicts, big or small. Think about it, boss. For so many years, the troops in the east, south, and north have been preparing for war all year round. On the other hand, the west that my father guards is always preparing for war. Therefore, among the 3 great generals of the empire, my father's troops are the strongest. Oh, so that's how it is. Yu Qianqiu had always been in the cultivation world, so he really didn't know much about these things. After a moment of silence, he asked again, Then what about the defense of the west when your father returns to the capital? Isn't he worried at all? Haha, boss, you don't know. Shi Xiaotian laughed. Last year, the 6 countries attacked our empire together, instantly angering my father. My father immediately issued a death order. With a single command, his 2 million troops split into 6 groups and defeated the 6 countries one by one, causing them to suffer great losses. In the end, the 6 countries sued for peace. At the beginning of this year, they signed an inviolable treaty with our Huaxia Empire. That's why my father can return to the capital with peace of mind. As for the defense of the West, my father has already handed it over to my second brother. Second brother has grown up under my father's guidance. I believe that it won't be a problem for him to guard the West. Oh, that means that there's no war in the West for now? Yu Qianqiu asked. Shi Xiaotian laughed. The 6 countries have suffered great losses. Even if they want to cause trouble, it'll be impossible for them to do so in the next decade or so. Seeing the proud look on Shi Xiaotian's face, Yu Qianqiu didn't ask him anything else. However, in his heart he was grumbling. There was no war at the border, but the Shi family controlled the strongest troops of the Huaxia Empire. A single army was able to defeat the armies of the 6 countries at the same time. One could imagine the battle prowess of this army. Some people probably couldn't sit still anymore. Look, they even brought up the matter of an alliance marriage. Chapter 217. Ling Feng walked over and said, Boss Ai Beizi and Xianping found the people in the garden. Although they don't have much aptitude, they still have some spiritual roots. I wonder if they can be used? Yu Qianqiu came back to his senses and smiled. It's fine as long as they have spiritual roots. How can there be so many people with good aptitude? Those with good aptitude have already been taken away by the major sections. You guys won't even have the chance to find them. But why did you bring the old man here? Shi Xiaotian glanced at the 3 of them and laughed in his heart. Ling Feng was startled and said, Boss, didn't you say it's better to have more people regardless of age? Did I say that? Yu Qianqiu was stunned and immediately came to a realization. Oh, I think I did say that before. Forget it, it's better than nothing. We can bring them back to cultivate, and they'll be stronger than ordinary people. With so many people, we'll be worried about our food supply. It's better to bring them back, and not do anything else. We can be self-sufficient. By the way, little Tian, when you have time, help me gather some grains and seeds of all kinds of fruits and vegetables. I have great use for them. The three of them didn't know what he was going to do. Sure, Xiaotian nodded and agreed. Yu Qianqiu instructed again. Ling Feng, Beizi, and Xian Ping continued to search for people with spiritual roots. I'll still say it. I'll take as many as you can regardless of age. It doesn't matter if your aptitude is lacking. I have a way to solve it. But remember, keep a low profile, and don't let the other sex find out. I've been chased out of supporting Immortals Island. Many people want to kill me. This general's residence is my stronghold now. Don't let it be exposed. Ah. The three of them looked at each other, and Sure Xiaotian asked in surprise. Why were you chased out of supporting Immortals Island? My ass. Yu Qianqiu stood up and patted Sure Xiaotian's shoulder. He smiled and said, Xiaotian, I've taken revenge for you in Ongquangsung. The head of Ongquangsung, Lu Chongqing, and his grandson Lu Zhengguang were both killed by me. Ah, they were shocked again. Sure Xiaotian swallowed his saliva and said, Boss, you're not lying to me, right? You killed Sect Master Ongquangsung? How is this possible? Damn it. Do I look like a liar to you? Yu Qianqiu sighed and said, AI, if I didn't kill him, would I have been expelled from the supporting Immortal Island? Sigh. The days of having someone to back him up were over. From now on, he would have to rely on himself. Everyone keep a low profile. They were completely speechless, but they still didn't quite believe it. How could the Righteous Path's 6th-ranked sect leader Ongquangsung be killed so easily? It's good to be expelled from the sect. In the future, I can come here whenever I want. Oh right, Xiaotian, get me a set of ordinary clothes. I can't wear the supporting Immortal Island's clothes anymore. I'll definitely get into trouble if I stroll around the capital. Yu Qianqiu said. Sure Xiaotian's eyes lit up. From Yu Qianqiu's words, he could tell that Yu Qianqiu was going to be here often. He immediately agreed happily, and went out to find clothes for Yu Qianqiu. Ling Feng and the other two were also overjoyed. As for Yu Qianqiu, he flashed into the garden and stored the 100 or so people in the garden into Utopia. After giving some instructions to Guan Yu, Sure Xiaotian ran over excitedly with a set of clothes. He said, Boss, try this set of clothes to see if it suits you. This is my second brother's clothes. His figure seems to be about the same as yours. Yu Qianqiu took a look, and saw that the embroidered clothes, jade belt, and thick-soled boots were all prepared. He threw them back and snappily said, I just told you to keep a low profile. Why did you give me these clothes? Are you afraid that others won't notice me? He waved his hand and said, Just give me the clothes of your general residence's servants. Servants' clothes are for you to wear? Sure Xiaotian was stunned. Ling Feng and the other two felt a little uncomfortable looking at the silk robes they were wearing. Yu Qianqiu frowned and said, Why are you so long-winded? If I say it's fine, it's fine. Left with no choice, Sure Xiaotian could only run back to get him a set of servants' clothes. When Yu Qianqiu put on a slanted hat and adjusted his brand new black clothes, he instantly revealed a satisfied smile and said, Not bad, not bad. These clothes are really low profile. Xiaotian, from today onwards, I'll be your follower. I don't dare, I don't dare. Sure Xiaotian hurriedly waved his hand. He thought, if you become my follower, what if one day you're not happy? Where am I going to find spirit stones and spirit pills? Yu Qianqiu waved his hand and said, Don't be long-winded. In front of others, I'll be your follower. Behind others, I'll still be your boss. That's settled. Ling Feng and the other two exchanged glances and said, Xiaotian, find us a set of servants' clothes too. Why? Is it fun to be a servant's follower? Yu Qianqiu glared at them and said, Do you want to go to the capital's 10,000 flower house to be a pimp? The three looked at each other, and didn't dare to say anything. After staying in the capital for so long, the three naturally knew what kind of place 10,000 flower house was. Xiaotian, speaking of 10,000 flower house, I've never been there before. Why don't you take me there now? Yu Qianqiu tidied up the crooked hat on his head and sighed. At this time, he had already put away the storage bag and the sword on his back. To him, it didn't matter if these things were on display or not. If he wanted to take them out, it would only take a thought. The three looked at each other and didn't know if he was telling the truth or not. Looking at his serious expression, it didn't seem like he was joking. Shi Xiaotian asked tentatively, "Boss, you really want to go to 10,000 Flower House? Heh, that place is a lively place." "Oh, lively?" Yu Qianqiu nodded his head seriously and said, "I was just saying it casually. Since you want to go, as your follower, I naturally have to accompany you. AI, if you want to go, then hurry up. Let's go. Let's go. Don't waste time." The three were completely speechless. Yu Qianqiu pushed Shi Xiaotian out in a hurry. As he walked, he didn't forget to look back and warn the three who followed him. "What are you three doing here? Go do what you need to do." Pillar of State General's residence. Yu Qianqiu had lived here for more than a year, so he was very familiar with the place. In the wealthy and powerful mansion, the two of them walked out of the back garden one after another. The servants who passed by saluted when they saw Shi Xiaotian. But when they saw the servant in new clothes behind him, they all felt that he was very unfamiliar. They all secretly muttered, "Why haven't I seen the third young master's servant before?" Shi Xiaotian walked confidently in front, while Yu Qianqiu followed behind with his hands behind his back. His aura wasn't any weaker than the former's, but it seemed that his awareness as a servant was a little lacking. When the two of them were about to pass the main hall, a beautiful woman walked out. The two women on her left and right were also quite good-looking. Behind them was a group of servant girls. Shi Xiaotian slowed down and said in a low voice, "You know my mother. The two beside her are my eldest sister-in-law and second sister-in-law. They married a few years ago, so you haven't seen them before." The two of them inevitably bumped into each other. Shi Xiaotian bowed and said, "Mother. Eldest sister-in-law, second sister-in-law." The servants on the other side also bowed to Shi Xiaotian. Li Hongyang looked at her son lovingly. Her eyes inadvertently glanced at the servant behind her son, and was slightly startled. Not only did this servant not bow to her, he actually stood there with his hands behind his back. Yu Qianqiu looked at her and nodded with a smile. When Li Hongyang saw who it was, she was immediately shocked. When the woman beside her saw Yu Qianqiu, she frowned and said, "Uncle, is this the new retainer? Why isn't he bowing to mother?" She immediately turned around and shouted, "Housekeeper, who brought this servant? Why doesn't he know the most basic manners of servants? Someone come, bring him to teach him the rules." Chapter 218. Hearing this, Yu Qianqiu was dumbfounded. Not only him, Li Hongyang and Shi Xiaotian were also dumbfounded. Not far away, a man in his 50s jogged over and repeatedly smiled apologetically at the woman. He shouted at Yu Qianqiu in a low voice, "Still not coming with me, Mr. Yu." The housekeeper was Shi Shenqing, a retainer of the general's office. He had met Yu Qianqiu many times in the past, so he was familiar with him. He more or less knew what kind of person Yu Qianqiu was. When he saw Yu Qianqiu's face clearly, he was dumbfounded. Close to 10 years had passed, and his own appearance had already aged. However, Yu Qianqiu still looked the same, just that his appearance had become more mature. He naturally recognized him with a single glance, and was immediately at a loss as to what to do. "Shenqing, this has nothing to do with you. Take all the servants away. I haven't seen my wife for many years, so we have something to talk about." Yu Qianqiu came back to his senses and smiled. He ordered the housekeeper to leave. Shi Shenqing nodded repeatedly. After getting Li Hongyang's permission, he took the group of servants away. Seeing that the housekeeper didn't listen to her, the woman was a little annoyed. She glared at him and said, "Does the general's office have any rules? Wanshi, don't be rude." Li Hongyang stopped her. The other woman next to her quietly watched everything that happened just now. The servant in front of her was obviously not simple. How could a normal person order the housekeeper of the general's office? "Mother, these servants are getting more and more unruly. If you don't teach them a lesson, they will bully their master in the future." Mother is kind, so you can't be cruel. Why don't you let your wife discipline them instead? The woman seemed to have lost a nerve in her head, and was still chattering. The other woman had already pulled her a few times, but she still didn't notice. Shut up. Li Hongyang also scolded her wife. In her impression, Yu Qianqiu was like a god. Back then, he just casually drew a path, and trapped her eldest son for a few days. How could she offend him? Damn it. If you continue to nag, I'll sell you to Africa. Yu Qianqiu was speechless when he met such a woman. He pointed at the woman's pretty face and asked Shi Xiaotian. Xiaotian, is this your sister-in-law? Is it Shi Youtian's wife or Shi Yintian's? Shi Xiaotian looked at him with a wry smile and thought to himself, if you don't wear this servant's clothes, how could you have caused such trouble? Li Hongyang took over the conversation and introduced awkwardly. Mister, please don't be offended. This is Bao Wanshi, the wife of my eldest son, Yu Tian, and this is Situ Hui, the wife of my second son, Yin Tian. Bao Wanshi. Yu Qianqiu sized her up and laughed coldly. She doesn't live up to her name. Why did Yu Tian choose such a shrew? In my opinion, he should just divorce her. His words were not polite at all. The people at the side were speechless. Shi Xiaotian really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Bao Wanshi was so angry that her face turned pale. She said with a trembling voice, You? Wah. She was so angry that she cried. Yu Qianqiu didn't have a good impression of shrewd-like women. What he said just now was to anger her. Seeing that she was crying, he immediately became interested in watching a good show. He jokingly said, Cry, continue to cry. It's too soft, louder. Bao Wanshi did as he said, and began to cry loudly. Her voice was really sharp, and she even made a lot of body movements. Situ Hui, who was at the side, tried to comfort her, but it was useless. Li Hongyang felt a headache coming on. Shi Xiaotian quickly pulled Yu Qianqiu back and said, Boss, I'm begging you. Please be lenient with your words. She is my sister-in-law after all. Just give me some face, okay? Who made my wife cry? A voice that pretended to be angry was heard with a hint of laughter. Yu Qianqiu turned to look. A person walked out from the entrance. He wore a scholar's hat and a vermilion official's robe. Who else could it be but the Shi family's boss, Shi Yutian? However, he seemed much more mature than before, especially with the two small tufts of beard on his mouth. Wah! Bao Wanshi acted as if she saw her savior. She wiped her tears and rushed into Shi Youtian's arms. She began to complain about all her grievances. Humph! There's such an evil servant. Wanshi, don't cry. I'll teach him a lesson for you. Shi Yutian let go of his wife and walked over with large strides. Haha, interesting. Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but clap his hands and laugh. He said, Shi Yutian, we haven't seen each other for so many years. I didn't think you'd become a flower protector. I'd like to see how you'll teach me a lesson. How dare you? After Shi Yutian saw the person's face clearly, the words he was about to shout got stuck in his throat. His face turned red. When he came to his senses, he hurriedly lifted the hem of his official robe and ran over to pay his respects. Yutian greets Mr. I haven't seen Mr. for many years. You've been well. No matter what their relationship was like in the past, meeting old friends was always a happy thing. Yu Qianqiu supported him and said with a smile, I don't live as well as you do. Hugging your wife and flirting in public. TSK, what a simple life. Mister, you must be joking. Yutian only covets some romantic relationships. How can it compare to Mr.'s celestial life? After all these years, Mr. is still as elegant as ever. Yutian really envies you. He was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Back then, he painstakingly pursued the path of cultivation. In the end, the path was ethereal, and he woke up from his dream. He finally gave up and settled down to marry a wife and focus on his career. However, he couldn't help but have a cultivation complex in his heart. He sighed to himself. His third wife was the one he was envious of. He often wanted to chat with his third wife, but it was difficult to see her leave the forbidden area of the back garden. At this moment, Bao Wanshi was no longer crying. She was looking at her husband with her mouth wide open. No matter how stupid she was, She could sense that the servant in front of her was not ordinary. Shi Yutian waved at her and said, "Wanshi, come and greet Mr." Ah. Bao Wanshi didn't know where to put her hands. She walked over gracefully and saluted with a flushed face. "Bao Wanshi greets Mr. I was reckless and offended Mr. just now. Please forgive me, Mr." Si Tuhui, who was at the side, was very obedient. She didn't need to be reminded and came over to bow. Si Tuhui greets Mr. Humph. Yu Qianqiu snorted coldly at Bao Wanshi and ignored her. Instead, he raised his hand at Si Tuhui, indicating that she didn't have to be so polite. He smiled and said, "Are you Yin Tian's wife? I'm old acquaintances with your husband." "Wife? Husband?" This mister's words were a little rude. Si Tuhui muttered to herself, but she nodded with a smile and retreated to the side. Shi Yutian saw that Yu Qianqiu was ignoring his wife's apology. He immediately gave his third brother a look, asking him to plead for leniency. Shi Xiaotian understood and walked over to pull Yu Qianqiu. He smiled and said, "Boss, my sister-in-law actually has a good heart. She's just a little outspoken. Don't bother with her." That's right, that's right." Shi Yutian walked over and said, "Yutian apologizes to Mr. on my wife's behalf. I hope that Mr. will forgive my wife this time for my third brother's sake." Actually, Yu Qianqiu wouldn't really bother with an ordinary person like her. However, women sometimes relied on their status and didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. In order to be less long-winded in the future, he couldn't help but scare her a little. He immediately pointed his finger and shouted, "Bao Wanshi, I'll spare your life this time for the sake of the Shi brothers. If you dare to do this again, I'll definitely take your head. When that time comes, it'll be useless no matter who pleads for mercy. Hurry up and thank Mr." Shi Yutian tugged at his wife. Bao Wanshi felt very wronged. How could she be treated worse than an outsider in her own home? However, she still thanked him honestly. This matter was settled just like that. Bless the heavens. Yu Qianqiu patted his shoulder and sighed. "Xiaotian and I are going to Wanhua brothel. Do you want to join us?" Shi Xiaotian almost vomited blood. He looked at his mother, who was glaring at him guiltily. Si Tuhui's face was already red. Bao Wanshi's eyes were wide open. Shi Yutian kept smiling foolishly at Yu Qianqiu. This question was very difficult to answer. In fact, he really wanted to go out with Yu Qianqiu. It was not for the fans of Wanhua brothel, but purely for Yu Qianqiu. However, his wife, mother, and sister-in-law were all at the side. How was he supposed to answer? Yu Qianqiu joked, "Are you going or not? Why are you smiling foolishly? Give me an answer." Shi Xiaotian's expression twitched. "Boss, you just want to see the world in chaos. You're not allowed to go." Bao Wanshi opened her arms and stood in front of Shi Yutian. She glared at Yu Qianqiu and said, "Even if you kill me, I won't let him go to that place with you." "Oh, I didn't know that she was a feminist." Yu Qianqiu chuckled and said, "Yutian, since your wife doesn't want you to go, then forget it. Xiaotian, let's go." With that said, he walked straight out. Shi Xiaotian lowered his head and followed behind, as if he was looking for ants. "Hey, Mr. Wait." Shi Yutian was a little anxious. "If you dare to go, I'll fight it out with you." Bao Wanshi jumped onto Shi Yutian and hugged him tightly. She didn't care about her image anymore. Not far away, Yu Qianqiu's laughter could be heard. Si Tuhui's eyes revealed a trace of curiosity. Who was this person? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.